Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson on this Monday. It is steamy outside. August has returned with a vengeance, so we'll have to deal with some of that. I mean, tell you, it's hot, it's humid. Me and the Bulldog, we are here underneath the kind and cool air conditioning in the studio here in bucolic Watertown. But we're going to survive it, as long as we don't have to go outside for it. Hey, Chris Weber is in the control room. We got Jay Harper in the newsroom, and let's get after it because we got a lot of stuff today. Donald Trump started his day not just outside the nation's capital at Arlington National Cemetery, at the Tomb of the Unknowns, where he honored those who died in the Afghanistan withdrawal, the 13 American servicemen and women who were murdered at the Abbey Gate bombing amid the Biden-Harris government's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Interesting that neither Kamala Harris nor Joe Biden bothered to go over and pay tribute, but one way or the other, Trump did. And then I'm going to try to do this in chronological order, the way it all came down. He went over to a supporters, a person who's running for the Senate in the state of Virginia. His name is Henry Cowell, and made an appearance over there. And he took a few questions from reporters, and it really it came down to the subject of the September 10th debate, which is very important. It may be the only debate the way things are going. And in fact, there's some question this debate will even go off because apparently there are some differences of opinions about the rules. Now, here's what Trump had to say about all that.
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
I want to make sure you heard the question. Do you want the microphones muted, when you're not speaking? And because that's the way it was at that CNN debate. Remember that? Okay, well, here was the answer.
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on. But the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine. And I think it should be the same. We agreed to the same rules. Same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
She doesn't want to debate. That's what Trump says. Now, I mean, depending on who you talk to about this, some people say Trump wants out. Some people say that Kamala Harris wants out one way or the other. There is a squabble over the rules that we all thought were settled for this upcoming ABC News debate. Then he got in his Trump Force One and flew to Detroit, Michigan, where he's had a number of appointments. The first was speaking to a National Guard Association there in Detroit, and of course the conversation of what happened in Afghanistan came up, but not before we had Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat who now, I guess she's no longer a Democrat, but was a Democrat, who is now endorsing Trump.
I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief. Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace.
All right, Tulsi Gabbard, another endorsement racked up, and that one I think will be very helpful. Then Trump spoke to those National Guard Association members who were there.
Our country is being destroyed by a radical political class that sends our guardsmen and women to defend the borders of distant foreign nations while they surrender our own borders to an invasion right here at home, the likes of which we've never seen before. You missed birthdays and holidays deploying overseas in the global war on terror. Only Kamala Harris is letting terrorists come into our country at record numbers and letting jihadists pour into our homeland by the thousands and thousands and thousands. Can't do that. And while you have risked your lives to defend our rights and liberties and our borders, our opponents have waged war on those liberties from the White House, attacking free speech, censoring dissidents, and trying to put their political opposition in jail. Never happened before. I'm in this fight to defeat the corrupt political class in Washington that's hurting you very badly, whether we know it or not, and to reclaim America's future as a free and sovereign nation ruled by the American people. When I'm back in the White House, we will expel the warmongers, the profiteers, and take over our government, and we will restore world peace, and it will be again peace through strength.
Well, there you go. And you know what? He has a very strong argument here to be made, when you compare him to Kamala Harris, because, when he was president of the United States, we had relative peace in the world. We didn't have, Putin in Ukraine. We didn't have Xi in China acting badly in the South China Sea. We didn't have, the Iranian proxies creating, attacks on, on Israel. We didn't have that, and we didn't have North Korea acting badly. All of those things were held at bay. Now, you can say, well, he got lucky, or you could say no. Those leaders looked at Donald Trump and decided he was not somebody they wanted to challenge in a serious way. And then after Afghanistan, I think, it really was the turning point for a lot of things. World leaders looked at how badly the United States had performed in its withdrawal in Afghanistan and how weak Biden came across. Every world leader gets tested early. Just goes without. Every world leader will be tested at some point on the national stage. Often it's the test comes from an adversary. Here it was self-inflicted. As Biden decided, we got to get out of Afghanistan. We got to get out of there. It's something that it's been a position that he held all through the Obama years, and Obama wouldn't do it. Obama thought better of it. Obama would not follow his guidance. And it seemed that when Biden got into office, the first thing he was just jonesing to do was to make sure that we got out of Afghanistan, because he wanted to be proved that he was right and that Obama was wrong. And we can all see that it turned out very badly for the United States, because you got Putin, who takes a look at us being kicked around by the Taliban. The Taliban, and he says, look, I can roll those guys. Let's go ahead and go into Ukraine. He wanted to do it all along, and when he felt that United States leadership was particularly weak and not ready for the challenge, he challenged them. It really was a turning point for so many things. The world would still be a place of relative peace if Donald Trump were in office. But Donald Trump can make the case, it's a pretty good and strong case, that if you elect me, I will do everything I can to bring these conflagrations all over the world to a close. And then we'll try to keep things nice and quiet on the world stage so that we can prosper. Tulsi Gabbard was absolutely correct when she says, in order to have prosperity, you must have peace. So let's get the peace and then work on the prosperity, right? Trump also, while he was in Michigan, made a run over to a nearby Michigan campaign office where he talked to supporters there in the room.
One of those things, but we were in the neighborhood. We were talking to the National Guard. It was great. It was really fantastic. And I said, we got to come over and see. We really have this. If we can win this state, we win the whole thing. We win the whole thing. Well, we're going to win the whole thing. We have a couple of states that look real good that aren't traditionally Republican, but you don't even like to have to count on it. We have these great places that we did phenomenally on last year, as you said. We last time we had a great race in 2016, but we did much better in 2020. Think of it, got millions and millions more votes. But I will say they were both great, but there's more enthusiasm now than there was then. Wouldn't you say so? Wouldn't you say? Because,
Yeah, and so, of course, a group of supporters there. Look, Michigan is going to be very, very important, and the numbers are pretty tight in the battleground states. I will say that I have been reading the thoughts and looking at some interviews that have been done with pollsters who really do. They want to, I think, by and large, get it right. Now, there are Democrat polls and there are Republican polls, and then there are independent polls that are out there, and you have to decide which one you want to believe. But some of the pollsters that I have a great deal of respect for have been calling this in a different way. They say that Trump is looking a lot stronger than you think, and the numbers are not truly indicative of where Trump is. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later. On the topic of Afghanistan, one other point that should be made here, and I think it's a very powerful point to be made. Kamala Harris is just as responsible for the bad decisions that have been made on the national security front as Joe Biden is. Now, she seems to be running a campaign that says that, she's going to fix everything, but that she's not responsible for anything. In other words, when she becomes president, we will do this and we will do that, and these problems will be fixed. Well, she has been a part of an administration that has been responsible for some of the disasters that we have, both domestically and internationally. And she has been asked about it time and time again in the past, and she's quick to point out that when there are big decisions to be made by Joe Biden, the last person in the room, the last person who has an impact on his thinking, the last person that gets asked questions about what do you think, is Kamala Harris.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do. And I'm going to add to that. This is a president who has an extraordinary amount of courage. He is someone who I have seen over and over again make decisions based on what he truly believes, based on his years of doing this work and studying these issues, what he truly believes is the right thing to do. And I'm going to tell you something about him. He is acutely aware that it may not be politically popular or advantageous for him personally. It's really something to see. And I wish that the American public could see sometimes what I see. Because ultimately, and the decision always rests with him, but I have seen him over and over again make decisions based exactly on what he believes is right, regardless of what maybe the political people tell him is in his best selfish interest.
There you go. I mean, you can't walk away from that. She says she was the last person in the room when the decision about Afghanistan was made. The last person in the room, the last person with whom Biden talked about the matter before he made his decision. And it turned out not to be only politically unpopular, but not good for national security on any level. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. I want to talk to you about the folks over at King Insurance in Brentwood who've been in the business as an independent agency for some 25 years. And trust me when I say this, an independent agency is exactly what you want. King Insurance and Associates provides policies for clients' specific needs, not their bottom line. And because they're an independent agency, what they can do is they can shop around and find that insurance policy that best meets your need. And what does that mean? Well, it means you're getting more bang for your insurance buck. That's what you want, the best insurance you can get for the least amount of money. They don't have to pick one product. They can choose from many. That's a real advantage. You call this number, 615-329-8121. You get an actual human being who will answer the phone and take care of you. You won't get a phone tree. You won't get a recording. You won't be stuck there hours on end waiting for an answer. Multi-policy discounts, they are known for that. 20 to 25, 30, 35% savings are possible. So what you need to do is get a royal review with King & Associates. Just log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates. You'll get royal treatment and great rates.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
An appeal of the dismissal of the Trump classified documents case. So that case may not be over after all. A bipartisan commission on the Trump assassination met in Butler, PA today. And an East Nashville police standoff comes to an end this afternoon. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Jay Harper back there in the newsroom. He's in that little cubicle making sure that no news gets past him. Hey, waving in the background. Hi, Jay. And there in the control room with all the blinky buttons. You know him, you love him. I can't live without him. It's Chris Webber. Hey, Chris. You have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, good.
Hot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was, and you know, I didn't really mind it because I just stayed in where the air conditioning was.
Well, that's a good plan. Yeah,
I mean, you
I did
know,
a lot of that
that's
too.
Why I pay for that air conditioning, and you know, this is the day that I really wanted it. Let's see what we got here. You know, we have astronauts that are sort of stuck in space. Well, not lost in space, but stuck in space. Oh, when I was a kid, this was the show right here. Lost in Space. That's, by the way, that theme was done by John Williams, the conductor.
Oh, really?
Yes, composer John Williams. That was one of his earlier works.
I don't think I ever saw this show.
You never saw the Danger, Will Robinson.
Yes.
I know that, but I don't think I ever saw the show.
Crush, kill, destroy.
That's right. That's right. And the evil Dr. Smith. I tell you, I love this show. The thing was, I guess I was in about the fourth grade when this came out, and you had to either be Star Trek or Lost in Space. You couldn't be both.
Oh, you couldn't do both. Huh?
And I actually later became quite a Star Trek fan, but early on, I was a Lost in Space kid. Danger, Will Robinson.
It was. You could tell it was very early on in the whole sci-fi world stuff because
the special effects on this were so bad.
Yeah,
I mean, really, really
and
bad.
That robot was, that's a guy in a trash can suit.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, the reason I say we have astronauts that are stuck in space is, we have a local guy, Butch Wilmore, and I guess it's Suni Williams, who went to the International Space Station aboard Boeing's new Starliner, and they had issues with their thruster. Ugh. Yeah, you don't want thruster problems. There are 28 of them on the Starliner, and a bunch of them went out, and they've been trying to work it out and figure out if we can fix this problem. I have a feeling it must have been a pretty dicey docking. When you lose 5 of the 28 thrusters, you lose the accuracy one has when trying to, dock that spacecraft. But he got it on there, and then they said, well, what are we going to do? Because, when you go back, you've got to hit the angle of entry through the atmosphere is like trying to, go down a very narrow corridor. You can't get out of that lane. And if you
kind of
miss
thread the needle.
It is so tight. You have just one little window, and you got to go in at exactly the right angle. If you go in too deep, you burn up. If you go in too shallow, literally you bounce off the atmosphere, and then you're way out in space. And I mean, it's such a critical thing. And the question was, do they have any confidence that they could go back on the Starliner? And well, the Boeing people, on one hand, they want to defend their spacecraft, and they say, yeah, we think we've got it fixed. But can you imagine, with all of the problems that Boeing has had, if there was a real problem on reentry? I mean,
you can't do that.
And so to ask these 2 astronauts to get back into the Starliner, I think was too big an ask. I think if they'd been told to do it, they would have. But I think they made the right decision at NASA and said that no, they're not going to come back. They were only supposed to be there 8 days, and they're still there. And now they're not going back until February of 2025. Apparently, part of the problem is they got to they're going to send the Starliner back empty to see what happens. And that'll be interesting to watch. But they'll have to wait on a SpaceX capsule to come and rescue them. And they have to have they have to get spacesuits delivered that actually fit the astronauts, because the Starliner spacesuits and the spacesuits aboard SpaceX craft are not compatible. It seemed like they might have, worked that out ahead of time, but one way or the other, they're not compatible. So they got to, the logistics of the thing are considerable, and they have to wait for 2 empty seats going back in February.
I assume they have plenty of reserves as far as food and water go.
Yeah, they have a whole separate system for sending cargo up, and cargo arrives on a pretty regular basis, and they're okay on that, they say. But can you imagine? You're Butch Wilmore, by the way, from Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Yep.
Went to Mount Juliet High School. So you're going out the door, and last thing you say to your wife is, "I'll see you in a week, honey. I'll be back in a week." And now you're going to be there for, 9 months, I think it is, all told. So,
wow.
Yeah, a rough deal for those folks. But finally, a decision has been made. It's not a good one if you're Butch Nelson or Suni, but one way or the other, or Butch Wilmore or Suni, but. In one way or the other, a decision has been made. 31 past the hour.
Good afternoon. It is 31 minutes past 3 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Plenty of sunshine, downright hot, 96 degrees. A forecast and a traffic report are on the way. Special counsel Jack Smith, He's aiming to resurrect the classified documents case against former President Trump. He's just filed his appeal of a judge's decision to dismiss the case. ABC's Stephen Portnoy has the latest.
In his filing with the 11th Circuit Appeals Court, special counsel Jack Smith says his appointment was in keeping with a long tradition and endorsed by Congress through its appropriations process. Smith is asking the appeals court to overturn last month's ruling by District Court Judge Eileen Cannon, who dismissed the classified documents case, ruling on the first day of the GOP convention that Smith's appointment violated the Constitution because he wasn't nominated by the president or confirmed by the Senate.
A forum being held today in Butler, Pennsylvania, examining the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. It's a bipartisan group of representatives. Here is a Democrat, Representative Jason Crow of Colorado.
In the United States of America, you do not get to attempt to assassinate our elected officials and our candidates. It's unacceptable. And we are standing here in a bipartisan way to send the message that we won't tolerate it.
Back here in Nashville, the man at the center of an hours-long standoff inside a home in East Nashville is in custody. The Metro Police Department dispatched multiple units for a suspect who barricaded himself inside a home this morning on Carter Street. Police surrounded the home as negotiation efforts began. Police were then able to resolve things peacefully and took the man into custody at about 1:30 today. Domestic detectives with Metro are investigating this incident. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather. They're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
You know what? You need to let the team at Restoration Wellness help you achieve your weight loss goals. Restoration Wellness is a leader in weight loss management in Wilson County. So you call the team today, and here's the number, 615-470-8124. Set up an appointment, or just visit them at their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consultation today. Now, my friends Carly and Jamie will take good care of you like you're one of their own. You can become part of the more than 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results from the weight loss management programs. I am one of them. And I tell you what, every day, it's exciting to get up, step on the scale, and see that you've lost more weight. These are customized treatments, not one size fits all. Restoration Wellness considers your unique needs, your lifestyle, your goals. So if your goal is to lose stubborn body fat, or maybe just to improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Learn about the newest techniques in weight loss management. Just go to their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. Thank you for joining us. I want you to know how much we appreciate that you listen to this program. I do not take it for granted that you'll be there, but I'm glad that you find favor enough with what we do each day to be a part of our little effort to bring you news and information you can use. Secret Service, still under investigation. They had a whole group of people in Butler, Pennsylvania today who are on this bipartisan House committee that will be investigating what went wrong on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. The assassination attempt that very nearly cost us the life of Donald J. Trump. So they were there today walking the grounds, held a little press conference, didn't really say much, just that it was really important that they get there and take a look at it. And so they will be going back and beginning their hearings before long about what went wrong. And there are so many questions. I think this article that I found today sort of gets at it. Secret Service, incompetence or complicity? ? A pattern of security sabotage enabled the nearly successful assassination. The writer says what is emerging is a pattern that some might say is calculated carelessness. Hinting they are, as many people feel, that this was, that they let their guard down almost in hopes that something would happen. Now, that's a very serious allegation, not one that I personally believe, but I can understand when you look at the incompetence that was apparently on display and the egregious lapses in judgment that was on display by the Secret Service. It's really hard to understand how this could have happened. It's almost like, how could they have been so dumb? But they were. There's a whistleblower speaking to members of the Senate. I think Tom Cotton is the person that is most been targeted, and this whistleblower has made some pretty serious claims. You may not have heard about them. This is just happening over the weekend. The whistleblower claimed that the officials at Secret Service headquarters told agents in charge of the Butler campaign event to forego asking for any additional security via a formal manpower request, which are typically made by lead advance agents ahead of trips and submitted to the local field office, in this case, Pittsburgh. The whistleblower claims that officials with the Secret Service Office of Protective Operations Manpower preemptively informed the Pittsburgh field that the Butler rally was not going to receive additional security resources because Trump is a former president and not the incumbent president or vice president. Now, let me tell you when I read that, what I think is going on. Why did this thing pop up? Why did this whistleblower pop up just now? Well, if you remember last week, the story was 5 members of the one member of the president's protective detail, and I think it was 4 others from the Pittsburgh office were put on administrative leave. I think that's what's happening is that some of those that have been put on administrative leave are not going to go down without a fight, and that they are now letting it be known in no uncertain terms that they had asked for additional resources and were told not to do so. So if that is true, then it sort of mitigates their responsibility because they kept saying, we need more people, we need more people. And if there had been more people there, then maybe there would not have been this mix-up over who was going to cover the roof of that building from which the shooter launched his attack against Donald Trump. Pretty good question, and I think that's probably what is going on if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly. Then the other thing that just really I think is probably I think it's arrogance on the part of the Secret Service. You see, I've been around some of these Secret Service guys, and they look at themselves as the best and the brightest. I mean, they look at themselves as being really, honestly, 10 feet tall and bulletproof. They just think that they are the epitome of security. And I think that they look down their noses at local cops and say, you know what? Yeah, don't worry. We got it. We're the Secret Service. We got this. Yeah, I understand you have concerns, but don't worry. We do this every day. We know what we're doing. We got this covered. Please, just go out there and direct traffic. It was police officers who were directing traffic for the Butler Township, who were out there in front of the event, who were the first on the scene, and it was a Butler police officer who first identified that the shooter, the guy on the roof, had a gun. And by the way, because the shooter saw him, and he dropped down and started calling on his two-way radio, which incidentally the Secret Service could not hear. But I think the shooter probably thought, "Oh my gosh, now they know I'm here for sure. I've got to take this shot," and he's rushed the shot. And I think the adrenaline surging through his body, and the fact that he was now rushing and probably frightened that he was about to be discovered. I think he missed the shot or wasn't as accurate a shooter as he might have otherwise been. I think you could make the case that it was a local police officer that saved the life of Donald Trump. But then there's this question: why in the world would the Secret Service not have the local radios? This story continues. The day before the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, a tactical team of police officers set aside radios for their Secret Service partners so the two agencies could communicate during the former president's July 13th campaign rally. But the radios were never picked up. The next day, 3 minutes before the shots were fired toward Trump, local police radioed that a man was on a nearby roof. That warning never made it to the Secret Service, whose snipers didn't know the would-be assassin was on the roof until shots rang out. In the 15 seconds it took for snipers to lock on and kill the shooter, he was able to fire 8 shots. Standing over the gunman's dead body minutes later, a local police officer who responded to the initial warning expressed frustration that his own radio calls about a man on the roof seemed to go unheeded by the other officers. And he said, we're not on the same frequency. That's right. They didn't have radios that could hear, even though they were offered. The Secret Service failed to pick up the radios. Senator Ron Johnson, along with, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, Charles Grassley out of Iowa, the two senators who are always asking questions, have been asking questions of the Secret Service. And Senator Ron Johnson says that the Secret Service and the FBI are dragging their feet on providing information about the Trump assassination attempt. We've gotten some transcribed interviews, but the documents we request are heavily redacted. They've delivered the day of the interviews, so we really can't use the documents to conduct the interviews effectively. So we're not getting squat from my standpoint from the Secret Service or from the FBI. Johnson argued these agencies are raising suspicions and conspiracy theories with how they have helped in this investigation. This is exactly how you do that, he said. It's jaw-dropping how the body of Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was identified as Trump's would-be assassin, was released for cremation before anyone had seen the autopsy reports. Again, it's just driving suspicion and conspiracy theories. Speaking of the shooter, his family has hired lawyers. This from the Washington Times. The parents of Trump shooter Thomas Crooks have lawyered up as the FBI investigates whether the family knew anything about Crooks' plans. A family member who asked not to be named told Daily Mail that the FBI still very much has questions about how much the parents knew of their son's plans to shoot Mr. Trump at an outdoor campaign rally in Butler. The shooter's father, Matthew Crooks, is a gun enthusiast who has sold guns to family members in the past. I mean, I think I understand why they're asking this question, because if you remember, Thomas Crooks, his parents were actually calling out to police, reporting that they didn't know where their son was, and they thought he was missing. I mean, the last thing, according to what the parents of Thomas Crooks said to the investigators, that they thought he was going to go to the range, and Dad had to unlock the gun cabinet so that he could have the gun to go to the gun range. But then why were they calling local police at just about the time before this was all going down, saying that they didn't know where their son was and they were very concerned about his whereabouts? What would possibly cause you to do that unless you had an inkling that something was up? That's a real question that needs to be answered. My bottom line here is I think it was arrogance, and I think it was incompetence, and I think a lackadaisical attitude, and throw in a good dose of DEI at the Secret Service that had people in key positions who probably were not the best and the brightest, that caused the quality of the people who were working the Secret Service details to be less than it has been in the past. I think those three things are going to be the culprits when all is said and done. Now, I understand why some think that it was them basically sort of turning their backs on security so that there would be a risk there. I get why people feel that way. I am not among those as yet. By the way, speaking of the Secret Service, RFK Jr., last Friday we were bringing you the news that RFK Jr. had endorsed Donald Trump and was suspending his campaign. 2 days after he endorsed Donald Trump, the Secret Service discontinued his protective detail. It had a hard time getting it. He kept asking for it and they kept saying no. But he no longer has a protective detail. According to this story in LifeZette. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. $100 years, that's a long time. You'd agree. It's a century. A lot of things happen in 100 years. Think about where we were 100 years ago. Let me just say to you that when you have a company that's been around for more than a century, and it's a family-owned company, that's a rare thing. Doesn't happen every day. And you know why it has happened for DT McCall's? I think it's because they have a reputation for treating their customers with respect and dealing with them forthrightly and honestly. I mean, they're going to be honest with you. I've gone in to look at stuff at DT McCall's. You've got to go see the store. I mean, they got all kinds of furniture, appliances. You can't believe all the stuff they have in these stores. And when you go there, you find something, you say, hey, how much for that? And they give you a good price. Honestly, each and every time I've said, that's a good price. But then they did do something that's even better. They don't charge you extra for delivery or setup or haul away. The price they give you is an honest price, and they won't try to upcharge you for those other things like the big box stores do. And then the other thing about big box stores is, they got corporate headquarters in Delaware. And honestly, when you're doing business with them, it's a big faceless corporation, right? Well, when you do business with DT McCall's, you're doing business with the Middle Tennessee company that, whenever possible, tries to do business with other Middle Tennessee companies. Don't you want to keep your dollars local? Yeah, I think so too. All right. So listen, 5 locations. One of them is near you. Find out about where they are by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a Guaranteed Offer and start packing.
Donald Trump out crisscrossing battleground states this week. Today, he was in Detroit. A Colorado man arrested for threatening elected officials and a deadly cave collapse in Iceland. We'll have those stories for you at 4 p.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
If you care deeply about the Second Amendment, you want to stay tuned for the next hour, because I'll have the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, on as our special guest at 4:35 to talk about one county in the state of Tennessee that's trying to do an end around on state legislators and the state legislative body on the issue of the Second Amendment. It's really an interesting article and an interesting story, so that'll be coming up in just a short while. Looking at the markets, Dow Jones Industrials up 65. That's a good day. A new record high on the Dow. S&P was in the red, however, 17. NASDAQ down 152. So mixed boards today. What's driving all of this? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, it seems like when one market hits an all-time high, the other ones are down, so it was mixed today. A lot of pressure on the NASDAQ in particular. The much-anticipated NVIDIA earnings are going to be coming out later in the week after the market closes on Wednesday. That's putting some pressure on tech stocks. Fed, after they indicated on Friday that they are pivoting and going to be decreasing interest rate, the market looked at that very positive. We also saw today not a lot of real reports that came out. Oil's up over 3% with the unrest in the Middle East, but a lot of reports as the week goes on. The Fed's inflation gauge that it favors is later in the week, and then tomorrow consumer confidence. So there's going to be a lot more reports as the week goes on.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And to find out about all the things that John Maxon and the other good people over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement, just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 past the hour. You know, as much as we'd like it to be the case, there is no pill, there's no spinal cream that can solve your aching back problems. You got pressure on your back and your nerves, your back hurts a great deal. It's pressure on your nerves. And you have a couple of choices here. You got surgery or non-invasive spinal decompression. I chose non-invasive, non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. See, they got state-of-the-art facilities, the latest high-tech equipment. They offer the cutting-edge non-surgical procedures. Getting better is important, so Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley are offering half-off spinal decompression treatments and half-off the KT knee machine, which is sort of like spinal decompression for the knee. Now, if you're a new patient and you're saying, I'd like to try that, here's a great deal for you. You come in, you get an exam, an x-ray if you need one, consultation, and they will come up with your first treatment. All of that will only cost you $23. And after that, remember, half off of these spinal decompression treatments. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. So call them today, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Good afternoon. Coming up on 2 minutes now, past 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's hot, 96 degrees. It's going to get hotter. We'll have your forecast and a traffic report in just a couple of moments. Former President Trump crisscrossing battleground states this week. Today, Mr. Trump was in Detroit. Here's ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
Donald Trump spoke in Michigan before the National Guard Association. He used his speech to mark the passing of 3 years since the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and the deaths there of 13 service members in a bombing at the Kabul airport.
The humiliation in Afghanistan set off the collapse of American credibility and respect all around the world.
Trump vowed to fire any senior military official involved in the pullout.
Like on The Apprentice, you're fired, you did a lousy job.
ABC News, Washington.
A Colorado man has been arrested for allegedly making death threats against election officials, judges, as well as law enforcement. Alex Stone has this story.
45-year-old Teek Brockbank allegedly posted death threats on 2 social media sites over a year-long period against election officials in Colorado and Arizona, Colorado state judge, and federal law enforcement agents from the ATF, FBI, and CIA. He separately allegedly wrote a Colorado state judge about putting a bullet in his head and used a slogan common in the conspiracy movement, QAnon. Brockbank is now charged with counts that could get him 5 years in prison.
And finally, an ice cave in Iceland partially collapsing, killing at least one person. 2 others are still missing. Here's ABC's Inez de la Catara.
Officials in Iceland searching for 2 tourists who went missing after an ice cave partially collapsed while the group had been visiting a glacier in the southeastern part of the country. 4 people were struck by falling ice, one dying at the scene, another flown to hospital by helicopter. The search was suspended overnight when conditions made it too dangerous to continue, but resumed today with dozens of rescuers.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It's 7 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. Hour number 2 of the drive now kicking off. Listen, while you're trying to get home safely, we're going to make sure that you get some news and information, things to ponder about, things that you go, that's what I really want. I want you to go, I hadn't thought about that. Every once in a while, we get one of those. Listen, I want to also mention that after the news at the bottom of the hour, Representative Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the Tennessee House, will be joining us. It turns out in Shelby County, they are now talking about passing and putting some things on the ballot that would effectively be an end run around the state legislature on the issue of the Second Amendment. We'll get into the greater details of it, but Cameron Sexton and the Lieutenant Governor, Senator Hobby, has decided that they're going to send a very pointed message to the people in Shelby County about, well, you can do that, but it won't work out well for you. We'll get into all of that coming up at 4:35, and I think it'll be worth your time to hear what the speaker has to say. Okay, I want to start with, the mainstream media. They try very hard to run interference on behalf of Kamala Harris. And you know what? Every once in a while, you have an incident where the person being interviewed on our side of the equation effectively pushes back. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this. Tom Cotton, senator from Arkansas, really very good on the fly, very good interview subject. He really knows his stuff, but he doesn't take any crap. And every time they try to pull this on him, he pushes back, and I think pretty effectively. Over the weekend on those Sunday talk shows, I watch them so you don't have to. Tom Cotton got into it with Jonathan Karl over at ABC. And was absolutely unwilling to bend to any of the assumptions that Jonathan Karl was trying to put down as fact. Here we go. I think you'll like this. Tom Cotton versus Jonathan Karl, ABC News.
President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that.
Now, this is a very true point. Tom Cotton is correct. Somebody on the campaign staff told a reporter that she no longer holds that position. You have never heard these words come out of Kamala Harris's mouth. She has never said them. And Tom Cotton is correct on this point. I'm shocked that Jonathan Karl didn't know that, or did he? He just was playing dumb.
Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said on
this was not a radical convention. I mean, she as you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John. The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years. And when she campaigned for president in her own right, she did in fact promise things like decriminalizing illegal immigration and taking away health insurance.
But that's his position she's clearly changed on, and she has said she has changed. Yes, she has.
No, she has not. John, she has not said that. She's not. You pointed out, Senator Sanders, repeatedly things that her campaign has said. Anonymous aides speaking on background to reporters, has said, well, she no longer believes these things. Okay, maybe she has changed her position on things like taking away your health insurance and confiscating your gun. If she has changed her position, she owes it to the American people to come out and say in her own words when she changed and why she changed. That's one reason why she needs to address the American people and speak to these questions, because the only basis they have to conclude what she will be like as president is what she's done for 4 years in this administration and what she said in her own voice in the last campaign. Remember, these are not like college essays, John. This is what she said when she was campaigning for president as a 54-year-old woman. If she's had such a radical change of heart in the last 5 years, she owes the American people answers.
I'm telling you, I call that round one for Tom Cotton. He absolutely destroyed Jonathan Karl on that point. And you know what? Every single thing that Tom Cotton said was absolutely true. She holds these positions that, when she was running for the office of the presidency, her positions were way left, radical left, way outside the mainstream of political thought in America. And now all of a sudden, now that she wants to be president again, her campaign has told her, you can't say those things. You may hold them, you may believe them, but you can't say them. We need to hold different positions, because what do we need to do? We need to bring in the middle of this country if we're going to win this election, and so we can't be seen as too far to the left. But you've never heard her say those things. They're always attributed to a campaign spokesperson who spoke on condition of anonymity. That's what you get. Well, I want to hear her say it, and I want her to explain it, and I want her to be asked questions about it, but she never puts herself in position where she can be asked these questions. This is why she runs like a scared little rabbit from the press corps and doesn't want to answer any questions, doesn't want to sit down. This, I guarantee you, I can smell it coming a mile away. When she said that she's going to sit down with somebody between now and the end of the month, well, it's the 26th of August. There ain't much this month left. And, I promise you that it's going to be somebody like, I don't know, maybe George Stephanopoulos or somebody like that. I just, maybe, Rachel Maddow. It won't be a serious sit-down interview. It'll be a slobbering interview in which she's not asked the proper questions, but she can check the box and say, see, I told you I would sit down for somebody and do an interview. What about the press conference? I think the last time she had a press conference was in December. She doesn't want to have a press conference and ask questions of the press corps, answer questions, because you know what? The first 5, 6 questions are going to be about, well, why did you hold this position? And now you say you don't hold that position anymore. What was the thing that changed your mind? Why do you now hold this position? Is it simply because you want to get elected? Well, that's the answer, but she needs to be asked those questions. And as long as they can keep her away from the press corps, who will ask the questions if given the opportunity, then the better she's got it. J.D. Vance went up against Kristen Welker over at NBC about the border.
There has been a lot of discussion about Donald Trump's plans for mass deportation. Yeah. According to one estimate, more than 11 million U.S. citizens live in households with mixed immigration status, including more than 5 million children. If you and former President Trump were elected, would you separate families as a part of your mass deportation effort?
Well, we have to start with the foundational issue here, which is we have 25 million illegal aliens in this country right now because Kamala Harris has refused to do her job.
Very quickly, DHS says it's much lower. It's closer to 8 million. I don't know. Where do you get the 25 million from?
Well, I think the 25 million are the people that should have been deported that maybe weren't deported, plus you had another 12 to 15 million that have come in since Kamala Harris. Look,
DHS
whatever the number is,
that number for the record. They say it's closer to 8 to 10 million.
But I think there are reasons to think that DHS is underestimating. Whatever the real number is, it's way too high, right? It's millions upon millions of illegal immigrants that have come in just since Kamala Harris became the border czar a few years ago.
She was put in charge of the root causes of migration.
Well, the root causes of migration, I would say, Kristen, is that Kamala Harris refuses to do her job as border czar. And let's just start there. I want to answer your question, but I think it's important to sort of sequence this in the right way. So if you want to get control of the illegal immigration problem, you have to stop the bleeding. You have to stop so many people from coming here illegally in the first place. And that means undoing everything that Kamala Harris did practically on day one of the administration. You have to reimpose deportations. You have to stop catch and release, stop granting asylum to every single person who comes in here and says that they need asylum, and stop granting mass parole. These policies are why we have the immigration crisis that we have. So I think focus on fixing the problem. Before we even fix the problem, we've got to stop the problem from getting worse.
And as you know, President Biden passed a series of executive actions, and illegal border crossings are now at their lowest levels in about 5 years, so much so that Greg Abbott is no longer busing people to other cities. But let me ask this fundamental question,
please.
Sir. Fundamental question. Will families be separated under your mass deportation?
And again, because you made a point here, I do want to answer this question about families and about deportations, but you made this point that border crossings are lower. Border crossings at the southern border are lower because the Harris administration is sending more immigrants through the ports of entry. So instead of coming through the southern border, they're now being flown at taxpayer expense to the ports of entry all over our country. The number of illegal crossings, Chris, and this is a really important point, they're not any lower. They're just shuffling how the people are coming into the country in the first place. And this is very important.
They're able to
about
process them more
deportations.
efficiently, but Greg Abbott's not setting them to other
Kristen,
states.
I don't want a border czar who makes it more efficient for illegal immigrants to come into this country. That's why we have the problem that we have.
Again, I have to award that one to J.D. Vance. I mean, he made the points. He wasn't going to be pushed around by Kirsten Welker about this. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that he's right about this again. His facts are correct. And it is almost as if, you know, the left is carrying water for the Biden administration and for the Kamala Harris campaign. Pretty obvious that's what they're doing. It's really quite something to watch. And again, you just wonder, you know, but let me tell you why these two interviews are so important. Here you have Tom Cotton over on ABC, and here you got Kristen Welker doing the interview over at NBC on Meet the Press. And you know why they're important? Because many Americans who follow, you know, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and others, they don't get the news that you get every day. They get some sanitized version of it. And so when somebody goes on one of these Sunday morning talk shows, for many Americans, they sit down, they have their cup of coffee on Sunday, and they read the Sunday paper. Maybe if you still do that, I don't know. I used to, but you know, you read the Sunday paper and you watch the Sunday talk shows. That may be the only exposure they're going to get to these other points of view that otherwise would not come through. Very important to do them so that you can reach people that you might not otherwise reach, who are fed this daily pablum by the mainstream media that is truly one-sided. Well, I got more to talk about on this. We'll get to that right after we take this break. 20 minutes now past the hour. There are no pills or magic creams that can open up your spinal disc and take pressure off your nerves. No, if your back is hurting, it's likely because of pressure on your nerves, and that means you have two choices: surgery or non-invasive spinal decompression. I chose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Now, they have state-of-the-art facilities, the latest in high-tech equipment, and they offer the cutting-edge non-surgical procedures. Because getting better is so important, Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley are offering half-off spinal decompression treatment and half off the KT knee machine, which is sort of like spinal decompression, but it's aimed at the knee. New patients, you get an exam, a consultation, and your first treatment, that's only $23. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville, so call them today, 615-246-5009. Learn more at paintisbad.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Today, the FBI announces a 5-figure reward for a missing Tennessee teen. We'll have that story as well as today's closing money news at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 24 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy. We were talking about the Sunday talk shows and all of that nonsense that goes on. Every once in a while, you have a reporter who, is actually someone who will point out something that the left says. It doesn't happen very often. But I really love watching Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream. First of all, I adore Shannon Bream. I mean, she's just the nicest human being you could ever possibly want to meet. I mean, you think you see her and you say, she seems nice. She is nice. She's unbelievably nice. If you look up the definition for the word nice, I wouldn't be surprised to see her picture in the dictionary. Do we still have dictionaries? I think we still do. But she's lovely. And not only that, though, she's doing a great job with Fox News Sunday. Here she's interviewing the governor of Colorado, a guy by the name of Jared Polis.
Under this administration, we have had millions of new people come to this country in a way that it is unregulated, it doesn't follow our laws, and it is impacting housing markets. Is that part of the problem in Colorado and beyond?
Look, there's no doubt we'd be in a better place today if former President Trump hadn't torpedoed the bipartisan border security plan that would have finally locked down the border.
Okay, but that comes 3.5 years into this administration. You're repealing executive orders and doing all kinds of things that led us to these historically high numbers.
Well, look, I mean, Democrats have supported border security for decades. I supported it in Congress, sponsored bills to do it. And again, we can't let politics stand in the way of solving this. And so, while again, there might be blame on both sides, the most recent attempt to fix it was clearly torpedoed by former President Trump, and that's why we have a chaotic border today. Very clear, that's the matter. Of course.
Okay, well, that there are a number of senators we've had on this show and beyond who will say that they weren't going to vote for that bill regardless of whether President Trump liked it or not. They had real concerns with it in the House and the Senate.
Well, the key question to ask them then is, what amendments would you like to make to improve it? I mean, any idea that improves border security,
they'll say they weren't allowed to make amendments.
I'm sure Democrats are for. Well, then that's their problem. But look, that's what they're there for.
She made a very good point several times that, that whole bill was, it was, when you say it was bipartisan, it was one Republican. James Langford of Oklahoma was on board with this. Nobody else was involved in that. So you can call that a bipartisan bill if you want, but it really did not have wide-ranging bipartisan support. And so, again, I'm glad that you have people who will apparently push back from time to time. Now, a couple of other things I want to share with you, little sound bites from people that are Democrats, okay? This is James Carville, who will tell you the truth. If you listen to him, he'll tell you where things stand. And he's warning Democrats, do not get too enthusiastic because these polls that you're looking at that show things are incredibly tight, maybe even show that Harris is winning in some particular polls, they're really not the truth.
James, how much faith are you putting in polls that show Harris is ahead in key states and nationwide?
So, let me say this. August is a great Democratic month. We hell on wheels come August, okay? You remember what George Steinbrenner said about Dave Winfield? He called him Mr. May. The idea is to be good in November. And I tell Democrats some caution here. First of all, most quants say we have to win by 3 in the popular vote to win the Electoral College. So when you see a poll that says we 2 up, well, that's actually you're 1 down if the poll is correct.
Yeah, you'd lose.
The other thing is Trump traditionally, when he's on the ballot, chronically underpolls. All right? And so they came back late in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in 2020. And it showed Biden winning these states 7, 8 points.
Underpolls meaning Trump's going to do better than the polling shows?
I'm saying traditionally, he underpolls. Traditionally.
Means he's going to do better in the election because people are too ashamed to tell a pollster they're going to vote for.
I don't know,
right.
But I'm just saying traditionally, with Trump on the ballot, just telling the Democrats, they said, oh, James and Debbie down. Oh, what's he talking about? I'm not just telling you, you got to win by 3.
You can't help but not like James Carville, even if you disagree with him. But he's right. In the general election numbers, where we see Harris winning by 1 or 2 in some numbers, in some polls, that he's still behind. She's still behind because you can win the popular vote, as we have seen, and still not win the Electoral College vote, which is really where it's all decided. So there you go, some sound that I thought that you'd enjoy hearing from the weekend. Right now, it's time for the news at 4:30 on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It's 4:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine and 96 degrees. It's going to get hotter. We've got a forecast coming up as well as a traffic report. A $50,000 reward now being offered for information in the disappearance of 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers. He's been missing from Hendersonville now for 6 months. The FBI Memphis field office announcing today that anyone who provides information leading to the location and return of the missing teen or to the arrest and conviction of those who may be responsible for his disappearance could receive the reward. Sebastian, he was last seen in February. According to officials, Sebastian has multiple medical conditions, including autism, which could impair his ability to get home safely. Now let's turn to today's closing money news, and for that, it's Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks start the week with a mixed finish, but also a benchmark. The Dow closed up 65 points at an all-time high of 41,241. The Nasdaq closed down 152 points, and the S&P finished down 18. The Canadian government is imposing a 100% tariff on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles. That matches U.S. tariffs, and it follows similar plans already announced by the European Commission. Kroger and Albertsons are defending their plans to merge in a federal court hearing. They say joining would help them compete with big rivals like Walmart and Costco. But the FTC says the merger would eliminate competition and it would raise prices. If you're traveling over the long Labor Day weekend, the AAA says bookings for domestic travel are up 9% higher than this time last year. So they suggest that you have a backup plan for cancellations and delays. Pack your patience.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
You know, you've heard me talk about United Structural Systems, good people who will help you with your foundation issues. If you have a crawl space or a basement that is wet, they can fix that problem. You got mold growing in your crawl space, that's not good. How about sloping or sinking concrete? It's easier to raise it than it is to replace it, and cheaper too. So they're the people you want to call. Well, they have some special going on during the month of August. They call it their back to school promotion. If you have any job over $2,500, you can get 10% off if you do it in the month of August. They do have financing, no payment, no interest for 1 year with approved credits. And here's the thing I think you'll really like is that they will come out and take a look at the situation that you have. You know, cracking bricks or whatever it is, and take a look at it and say, you know what, this is what we think needs to be done to solve that problem, but there's no charge. No charge for the inspection. You don't pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied. You have nothing to lose by having them come out and take a look at your problem. They've been serving Middle Tennessee and Southern and Western Kentucky, as you know, for about 30 years. They guarantee their best at USS. 615-488-7855. Learn more at USSTN.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
37 past the hour now. Listen, if you care deeply about your Second Amendment rights, you need to pay attention to this next story and this next interview. Joining us on the Newsmaker hotline is the Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton. Mr. Speaker, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for having me.
I want to lay out what's happening, and people, things that happen over in Memphis, people say, well, that's Memphis. Well, it could easily happen here in Davidson County or any other county around the state. It sounds like they're trying to go around the state legislature. If you'll allow me, before I ask a question, to sort of lay it out. There are three measures that are going forward right now to be on the November 5th ballot in the city of Memphis in Shelby County. One would amend the city charter so that permitless carry of a handgun in the city would be illegal. It would also, as I understand it, block unpermitted handguns from being carried or stored inside a vehicle. Number two, another measure that would ban the carrying of what they determined to be assault rifles within the city, with the exception of those with valid handgun permits on privately owned property or at shooting ranges. Number three, if passed by voters, it would enact emergency risk protection orders, commonly known as red flag laws, within the city of Memphis, which, the state legislature has said that they are not interested in doing that. So you and the Lieutenant Governor, Mr. McNally, have decided that you're going to send them a very direct message. What is that direct message?
Yes. So, what we have in the state law is a preemption clause that no local government can preempt anything basically with the Second Amendment. Ammunition, guns, prohibiting, limiting, anything. It's very clear they have no authority to do that. But we also have local governments, progressive governments, trying to do other things, impose DEI will on businesses or on contracts. And so we've had enough. And so I've been working with the lieutenant governor, and we worked through the AG's office. And so what we're going to propose is a bill that basically says if you attempt to preempt state law through ordinance or charter amendments or through whatever avenue you want to go, if you do that, then we are going to withhold state shared sales tax dollars from you. In the city of Memphis, if they go through with this and do this sort of stuff, it would cost them $77 million.
$77 million, which is a lot of money to walk away from to make a point, I guess. So are you certain that you have the authority to do that? And why do you think that they are going forward with this if they run the risk of losing such a large amount of state funding?
We do have the authority. Arizona passed something recently that is doing the same thing, and also a violation of the state constitution. If the locals violate the state constitution, then they can be withheld accountable as well. And the thing is, look, if the federal government does it to us all the time, look, the basic example that I use is we passed in the state of Tennessee that boys cannot play girls sports. The Biden administration through Title IX is trying to put that boys can play girls sports in Title IX. Title IX forces us as a state to abide by it if we want the federal education dollars, because federal law trumps state law. And so we would have to make a decision. Are we willing to forego federal education dollars, or are we not? Well, right now, the locals have no mechanism to be held accountable. They can do whatever they want. We can't withhold anything from them. And so all we're doing is saying, look, if this is the road that you want to go down as a progressive city, even though there's no bearing that you can do this, we are going to withhold sales tax dollars from you, and you got to make a choice.
Well, I'm reading your statement along with the Lieutenant Governor McNally's statement, and you say, with the recent actions of the progressive soft-on-crime DA in Shelby County and the Memphis City Council, its continued efforts to override state law with local measures, we feel it's become necessary to take action. You single out the DA in Shelby County. What has he done that has caught your attention?
Well, he's not prosecuting crimes. He's letting people off. The bail system's running amok down there. He's not charging violent criminals with violent crimes. He's not trying any cases. And so what you have is you have the city of Memphis that's wanting to say, well, we need to ban guns, which is your Second Amendment right to have it. we're going to ban guns because guns is the problem. It's not the criminal and that they say is the problem. It's the law-abiding citizens. You know, if you're a law-abiding citizen, then you shouldn't be able to have certain guns in Memphis because they deem you a risk. But the criminals are the risk. Yeah. And so what you have is a combination of a soft on crime DA who will not go after violent criminals, who will not do the job that they should be doing. And then you got the city of Memphis with crime rising through the roof because of the soft on crime DA. They're going to say, oh, now it's the problem is really the guns. It's the red flag laws and all this sort of stuff. And state law is very clear that they have no authority. And if that's what they want to do, then there should be a consequence.
Well, it would seem to me this is also a shot across the bow of other cities where they try to impose progressive legislation, and you also, you could say, they have maybe another soft on crime district attorney in Glenn Funk. That name comes to mind. Are you sending a shot across the bow to the other, blue jurisdictions in the state of Tennessee that they cannot get away with overriding the will of the state legislature?
Yeah, we're going to, this legislation is going to be all-encompassing all across the state of Tennessee for every local government, city or county. You also have county government in Shelby County. You have a county commissioner who's trying to impose DEI on every business that's trying to get a contract with Shelby County. You can't do that. And so what you have is they're constantly pushing the envelope for their progressive agenda, and we're going to put a stop to it. And what that means is they're going to lose money, and they have to make a decision. But it's a stance to stand strong for Tennesseans who have elected their General Assembly to push back on these things, and state law takes precedent over local ordinances or local laws.
All right, but specifically about Davidson County, many times Davidson County has clashed with the state legislature on many issues. Are there things that have caught your attention in Davidson County as well?
Well, they had done things in the past about doing different contracts and saying that, you have to pay them a certain amount or you have to have union number of this and that. And so there are things that they're wanting to do. They were trying to circumvent a couple of other things recently that they didn't go through with. They're always trying to push the envelope. And so what we do know is as one does, another will do, and another will do, and it will escalate from there. And so it's better just to go ahead, stop it, send the message, and let them see how far they're willing to go. What they're doing in Shelby, I know you want to talk about Nashville a little bit, what they're doing in the city of Memphis is all they're doing is putting a political poll into the election box. That's all they're doing. And they're doing it not because of anything else. They're trying to say, they came out today and said, well, it's non-binding. Like there's no authority here. And so all of a sudden they're starting to back up a little bit, but they don't have the ability to preempt state law. And we do not currently have a mechanism, whether it's Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville. Knoxville has a couple issues. We don't have any mechanism that we can hold them accountable and say, if you do this, here's what will happen. And so that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Can I ask you another question on a different topic that has been sort of catching my attention? And again, I'm talking about, and again, I appreciate the fact that you're focusing on Shelby County. You make an example of them. You're right. If they get away with this, then you can imagine that Davidson County would follow suit, and other blue jurisdictions would also try to do that in the state of Tennessee. I get that. In the county of Davidson, in Davidson County, the city council has approved the mayor's plan for a big transit referendum. And they keep talking about all the kinds of things that they're going to do. Have you been able to examine the plan? And the reason I ask it is, it seems as if they're talking about taking roadways that now exist and reconstituting how they're going to be used and make them bus lanes, which would make it very difficult for people who live in the county surrounding Davidson County to get to work without having to take their bus system. Have you talked to them about it? Do you have any idea exactly what it is they're proposing? Because they've been very vague about it.
I have not. I haven't had any conversations with the mayor on the transportation idea that he's proposing right now, or with anybody else. Unfortunately, we've been involved in primary elections and now moving into the general election, looking forward to holding on to our supermajority, which we'll do. And then, we'll be definitely taking a look into it and seeing exactly what they're trying to do or not trying to do.
All right, and then to talk about the election, how is it shaping up in your estimation?
It's looking well in Tennessee. It's looking great. I mean, we're Trump's going to win the state of Tennessee. We're going to maintain our supermajority. You got outside groups, very liberal groups coming in trying to increase voter turnout. And so we're going to hold strong. We're going to maintain our supermajority and continue pushing our state forward and being a beacon of hope for freedom and liberty all across this country. People are looking at Tennessee and saying, that's what America represents. That's what we want, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
I know you probably noticed in watching the Democrats the other day that the two Justins and Gloria, the Tennessee three, had been talked about. Oh, they're going to get a big speaking position on one night on the convention, from the convention podium, and then it turned out at the last minute that got canceled. Were you surprised by that?
No, I mean, their party silenced them as well. I guess they didn't want them going up and speaking either. So I find it funny that they talk about how they're silenced all the time, and then all of a sudden when their party silences them on Thursday night and you got people livid about them being silenced and that they should be heard, none of them attacked Kamala Harris or anybody else. They just kind of let it go. But it was interesting that their own party silenced them because they're too radical to be on TV for the Democrat Party.
All right. Well, so you and the Lieutenant Governor, you say you have heard back, or are you've noticed that some things have been said in Shelby County about all this, or have they gotten back to you directly?
Well, what you've heard is originally this is an ordinance and we're going to do it through the charter, and then they started backing up a little bit. We'll see what happens. But I can tell you the Lieutenant Governor and I and the General Assembly are not going to back up on this. We're going to pass this next year, and we're going to start holding these local governments accountable to the state laws of Tennessee. That's what we're elected to do. That's the state constitution gives us the authority to have oversight over local governments, and that's what we're going to do.
And as far as it's coming up in the next session, do you have any other ideas about things that might make be of interest that you're going to be taking on?
Yeah, well, one of the things we're looking at, too, it's not so much of an issue in Davidson County because they're a metro government. But what you do have is in some municipalities, they allow property owners and business owners to vote in city elections because they're being taxed. They're being told what to do and not to do for their business. And so we're looking at allowing the business owners and property owners, if you have a business inside the city limits but you don't live there, why should they not vote for local city elections? They should have every right as well. They have a business in there. They're being affected by the laws, but they have no say at the ballot box. So we're going to look at that as well.
That's pretty interesting. All right. Well, listen, Mr. Speaker, thank you always. We always appreciate you dropping by on the drive in the afternoon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Talk to you later. 50 minutes now past the hour.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a Guaranteed Offer and start packing.
Another Democrat crosses the aisle to endorse Donald Trump for president. A report of abuse at an immigration detention center, and a somewhat surprising trade by the Tennessee Titans today. We'll have those stories and more at 5 p.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, if you didn't know, we're going to have a big debate party starting at 3 p.m. on the 10th of September. That's Tuesday. That's for the big ABC debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We're going to be talking about, all of that stuff. I'll start my show at 3, and I'll be joined by Dan, Chris, and Matt as the evening progresses. So you want to make sure you join us at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek, and Mount Juliet on the 10th of September. Details at 997WTN.com. All right, let me tell you about the folks over at Grace Point Healthcare. If you have kids and they're in sports, they have to have a physical, right? Well, Grace Point provides complete physicals for kids of all ages. And if you're going out of the country, you got to make sure that your immunizations are up to speed. Grace Point offers complete travel immunizations and is CDC certified for yellow fever and all other international immunization protocols. And here's one of the great things. Because they will see you the same day or the next day, you don't have to wait days or weeks to see a doctor. I mean, how many times have you called to set up an appointment with the doc and they say, yeah, we can squeeze you in next month. We can squeeze you in, a couple of months. Well, listen, what good is having a doctor if you can't see them when you need them? At Grace Point, it's affordable, comprehensive, and convenient. Delivered the old-fashioned way. Located on Main Street in Franklin, there's the number 615-599-6868 to set up an appointment.
Good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got sunshine and 96 degrees. The forecast and a traffic report are on the way. Former President Trump stopping by Roseville, Michigan today after a speech at the National Guard Association convention in Detroit. Trump spoke to cheering campaign workers, saying former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard appeared with him to endorse him.
Tulsi just endorsed me in front of the National Guard. That made it permanent. When you're in front of the National Guard, she gave us a great endorsement, actually. And I've had a lot of respect for her for a long time.
Trump visits swing states Wisconsin and Pennsylvania later this week. A troubling new report revealing shocking abuses at immigration detention facilities in Louisiana. Here's Dave Packer.
A new report exposing severe physical and sexual abuse at immigration detention centers in Louisiana. The report, co-authored by a number of civil liberties groups, including the ACLU, highlighting inhumane conditions and alleging neglect and retaliation by guards. One detainee describing his hospital experience as a torture chamber after being assaulted by staff, leading to a suicide attempt. ICE claims is committed to detainee welfare, but the report says these facilities should be closed as they cite systemic failures and violations of basic human rights.
Out in the Northwest, the Seattle-Tacoma Airport still recovering from a cyber attack that occurred on Saturday. No word yet on who hacked the airport's IT system. The outage has had many passengers, they haven't been able to check in at all or quickly. The boarding information for some international travelers had to be put in manually. The systems, they broke down. All that took forever. Travelers are advised to check in with their airlines, not the airport, and to do so as quick as possible. A spokesperson for the airport, Perry Cooper, at a press conference today.
We're still working to restore full service, and with the assistance of industry experts and partners, there's currently no estimated time of return at this point. Our priority continues to be assisting the travelers that may be impacted here at SEA.
Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, he's set to stop in Nashville this week as part of the Trump-Vance campaign trail. The Republican senator from Ohio, he'll be here tomorrow alongside Tennessee Senators Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty. It's not clear just yet where the event will take place. Those details are reportedly forthcoming. And quickly, and just a little bit of sports news here. Multiple sources reporting the Tennessee Titans have reportedly traded quarterback Malik Willis to the Green Bay Packers for a 2025 seventh-round draft pick. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, hour number 3 of the drive now kicking off. Hey, how you doing today? Everything all right? How'd your Monday go? You get everything done you hope to accomplish at work, wherever you were? Yeah, listen, I'm glad that you're headed home safely now. Just hang on. We'll give you some information so that you arrive at home well informed about the events of the day. I want to start off with a bunch of political news, but not so much about campaign stuff, but just other stuff that affects the political landscape. Texas Governor Abbott has announced today that they have removed over 1 million ineligible voters from the rolls since 2021. And more than 6,500 non-citizens are removed from the state rolls, and about 1,930 of them have voted in the past. I can't tell. We've seen, like lately, there have been a lot of Republican states where they have made announcements. Either the person in charge of elections or the governor or the lieutenant governor have announced that, hey, look, we've removed ineligible voters from the rolls. And a great number of them were ineligible to vote because they are not legal citizens of the United States. We hear all the time, oh, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. You don't need to worry. Illegal aliens do not vote in national elections. They're not allowed to do so, but they do. They do, and they have. And look, so you say, well, there's 2,000 of them in the state of Texas. That's not much when you look at the entire population of the state of Texas. Yeah. But I've seen elections that come down to 100 votes here or 15 votes there. I mean, you never can say that it doesn't have an impact, because a lot of these elections are really, really, really close. In fact, I think the national election will be decided by probably maybe less than 100,000 votes. And when you talk about the entire population of the country, that's not a lot of people, but ultimately it may come down to about that. So making sure that your rolls are clean, there aren't a bunch of dead people on there, there aren't a bunch of non-citizens on there, is so important. And this is the latest in a bunch of these things that have come down from states. And every time they look, if they bother to look, they find that there are people on the voter rolls who are ineligible to vote. It just happens all the time. J.D. Vance, apparently going to be in Nashville tomorrow. No public ceremony, no public press conferences or anything like that, as far as I know. He's here for a fundraiser and being hosted by Nashville businessman Adam Bowler of Rubicon Founders and his wife Shira. Unclear at this time where the reception will take place. Fox News is working. Fox News 17 is working to gather more details, as we all are. I think it's in and out pretty quick. An evening event, probably. But again, he will be here tomorrow. So if you happen to see a motorcade whizzing by, wave at old JD as he goes past you, because that's who it'll be. All right. A lot has been said today about the fact that we're near the anniversary of the deadly attack in Afghanistan that claimed the lives of 13 American servicemen and women, and a lot has been said about how that changed the course of things worldwide. I mean, because we look so weak in that environment. That Joe Biden, he was absolutely certain it was the right thing to do, rushed it, didn't listen to his advisors. He knew better than everybody else, and it turned into a real disaster. We left behind billions of dollars worth of weapon. We lost 13 people. 45 others were seriously injured in the attacks, and all of that happened. And Kamala Harris wants you to believe that, well, I may be the vice president, but I'm not the person who's truly in charge. Just remember this.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision. Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room? Yes.
Yes, she was. She was the last person in the room. She says she's always the last person in the room, the last person with whom the president checks, that he values her opinions, and that she is part of the decision-making process. That means she can't walk away from everything that happened in Afghanistan and all of that. There is a fight going on right now over the debate that's scheduled for September 10th. Kamala Harris, according to the National Pulse, is seeking to change the terms of the ABC debate with former President Donald J. Trump, with the America First Leaders camp saying her team wanted to sit-down debate with opening statements and notes. Harris has already backed out of a debate with a less friendly Fox News network in front of a full arena audience. Harris's camp is currently quibbling over whether or not microphones should remain hot while the rival candidates are not speaking. Trump, who asked for hot mics in 2020, agreed to muted mics with no audience for the upcoming ABC debate and a previous CNN debate against Joe Biden, while the Democrats being the ones who put forward these demands. Now Harris's team is asking for the mics to be left hot on ABC, after all, and criticizing Trump for declining to reopen negotiations to distract them from the fact that Harris has been demanding even more favorable terms than Biden. Well, what did the former president have to say about that? Here is Trump today. He was in Virginia, and he was asked the question about, do you want those mics muted, or do you want them to remain hot?
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine. And I think it should be the same. We agreed to the same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
That was Trump today saying Harris doesn't want the debate, but one is now, as we know, scheduled for September 10th. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we've got a big debate watching party. If it goes off 3 p.m., I'll be there at Scoreboard Cedar Creek in Mount Juliet. And for our big debate watching party, and you should make arrangements to be there. Details at 997WTN.com. Look, she doesn't want the interview. I mean, I heard there may be something up. I saw a story, and I haven't had a chance to run it down, that perhaps Harris has agreed to a sit-down interview. But, she's promised to do one before the end of the month, and here it is, the 26th day of August, and I don't know any details really about anything that's been set up, but she doesn't want to do interviews because she knows that, she's going to be asked questions. She's not good on the fly. She's not good ad-libbing. She's okay if she reads a teleprompter, and that's all she's been doing. She doesn't answer any questions. She doesn't sit down for live interviews. She doesn't hold press conferences. And honestly, the American people are really sort of getting tired of this scared little bunny rabbit act that's going on right now, where they don't want to sit down and have a serious discussion of the issues and answer questions and be challenged. Not that reporters are going to challenge her that heavily, but at least maybe there may be one with integrity out there who would ask the right question. We can only hope. So this is going on. The fight continues. Apparently, should the mics be muted or should they not be muted is the big point of contention. Online gossip rag TMZ fell for the Beyonce DNC rumor. Now, this was when a lot of people said, the last night of the convention, the word came down that they were cutting people like the Tennessee Three, cutting them and not letting them speak. And the idea was that the rumor that started floating was they were going to try to shove in some major form of entertainment. Earlier in the day, in fact, I am told that the convention band were practicing Beyonce songs. And I don't know if that was part of it, but they were practicing them earlier in the day before the convention began. But as you know, Beyonce didn't show up. Neither did Taylor Swift. Where did this come from? Why did TMZ, which I will say, sometimes they're way out there, but they have a pretty good reputation of getting it right. Where did they get the information? Why were they misled? Apparently, some of it has to do with a tweet on X from a woman by the name of Ruiz. Ruiz is her name. Let's see. I'm trying to get her first name. Emmy Ruiz, who works for the campaign. When all of these rumors were floating around that they were going to be a major a person show up, a major entertainment person like Beyonce or Taylor Swift, she tweeted out a bee emoji. That's like the beehive, the Bayhive, I think they call it. That would indicate that she was hinting that it would be Beyonce. But she then later said, "Sorry guys, my 6-year-old took over my phone." Tried to claim it wasn't her. I think that's part of where it came from. Look, I got to tell you, when you hear rumors like that, they don't come out of nowhere. They do generally have a source who is hinting that something is up. They won't tell you, "Oh no, I can't tell you," but you don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. Oh yeah, it's going to be a big surprise. And so a lot of people were hinting. And it was all a ploy to get a larger audience. I mean, the Beyonce audience, the Taylor Swift audience, all wrapped up in that. And you had, more people watching that convention that probably would, not because they cared anything about the politics, but because they wanted to see Beyonce or they wanted to see Taylor Swift. It was really, I'll tell you, as campaign dirty tricks go, that was a pretty good one. They fooled a lot of people, and they had the desired results. And I would say to reporters, you've got to be careful with this stuff. Sometimes, they're letting you on to something and telling you that, you don't want to miss it, and it's legit. And sometimes they just lie to you in order to manipulate you and your audience. And that's exactly what happened. People in the media ought to be pretty angry about that. They should, but they won't. They won't say a word. There are 10 Senate seats that are likely to flip. I'm not going to go through all 10, but I also have 5 House races to watch that could determine, who controls the Senate and who controls the House. We'll get to that right after this break. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Eurofix has a very different business philosophy. They staff all of their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, so they will be ready when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment for vehicle repair? Some dealers, it can be more than 2 weeks just to get an appointment, but not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999, plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car right away. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, "We will never be too busy for our customers. We are here to take their pain away now." Eurofix repairs all European cars, and Eurofix says yes to speedy repairs when others can't or won't. Family owned for some 24 years, so call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Donald Trump on the campaign trail. He's hitting swing states this week. He was in Michigan today. Also, special counsel Jack Smith, he's trying to resurrect that classified documents case against Mr. Trump, and Canada taking some bold steps in their trade relations with China. We'll have those stories coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Coach, it's not just the presidency that's up for grabs here. With the very thin margins in the United States Senate and in the House of Representatives, the real question is, can Republicans, gain control of both bodies? Right now, we only control the House, and it's by a razor-thin margin. So, it doesn't take a lot of seats to fall one way or the other to make a big change in either one of these bodies. Let me just give you 3 Senate seats. I'll give you 4. That are most likely to flip. Number 1, West Virginia. Not a surprise here. It's the seat held by I'm trying to think of his name here. Just Manchin, Joe Manchin, and he's not running for re-election. And the Republican Governor Jim Justice is expected to win. West Virginia is a very red state. I think Donald Trump won that state by 25 points. So, this is an easy pickup. The other one that looks pretty good is John Tester. He's a Democrat from the state of Montana, and he's running up against a guy who's a retired Navy SEAL, Tim Sheehy. And this is thought to be a pretty good chance because Tester is a Democrat senator in a pretty reliably red state of Montana. So there's a pretty good pickup. Real quick, Sherrod Brown, Ohio, I think he'll probably prevail. Debbie Stabenow in Michigan, I think she'll probably prevail. I had some hope for Carrie Lake in Arizona. It's not looking so good, but, I wouldn't write her completely off. But Ruben Gallego will probably win the seat currently held by Kirsten Sinema. Nevada, Rosen will win. He's the incumbent Democrat. Pennsylvania, I think it'll probably be Bob Casey winning that race. Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, she's way ahead in the polling data there. A surprise is Texas. Look, people have tried to say for a long time that Texas is going to go purple. Democrats have tried to make Texas, a blue state, or at least more purple than it is. But I saw a poll the other day where Ted Cruz was only leading Colin Allred by 2 points, which in Texas, that's scary if true. So a lot of people would like to take Cruz down. He's a very effective spokesman for the right, and they don't like him. And so that is one you should watch pretty closely. I'd only throw one other one up there to watch, and that's Ben Cardin is retiring, and Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott is running for his office. He's a Democrat. Larry Hogan, the former Republican governor of Maryland, might pull this off. He won as governor twice in a very blue state. I know Governor Hogan quite well. He's not what you would consider to be a right winger. In fact, he barely qualifies as a Republican in some quarters, but he might win in this very blue state. One to watch. I want to take just a moment, if I could, to talk about a guy that I knew quite well when I first went to Washington. I was sent to Capitol Hill virtually from the first day I got there. And I didn't have a lot of expertise. I knew a little bit about politics, but I really didn't understand the Hill in a big way. And there was a guy there who worked for CBS. He was considered the dean of broadcast journalists on Capitol Hill. The guy, the old wizened, gray-haired with experience, the guy who'd seen it all and had done it all and had been there for a lot of years. His name was Phil Jones. And he was a great CBS News correspondent in the old-fashioned tradition of CBS News correspondent. Here is a little bit of Phil Jones.
Along with all the controversies and scandals, I've also covered some real giants at this Capitol. Elected officials who were as fiercely partisan as they come. But at the end of the day, it was always country first, political party last. I'm Phil Jones, CBS News, Washington.
Phil was one of the last of the old gentleman correspondents, and I got to tell you, I met Phil. I mean, I always remember him sitting there working on his stories in his little booth. We all had little cubbyhole booths up there in the Capitol on the Senate side, and mine was down the hall from the CBS booth, which could hold 3. Mine barely held 1, but I would go by and talk to Phil. He always had a cigar in his mouth. I never saw it lit one time, but he's always chomping on a cigar and always had a moment to talk and always was willing to help the young people who came along who were trying to figure out how to cover this institution that we call Congress. And he was immensely gracious to me and a really, really lovely guy. Well, got news this morning that Phil Jones has passed away. He had retired from CBS News some years ago before it became the institution it is today. And I just want to tell you that, we all talk about, the networks as being unbalanced, but there was a time when they took things like being fair and balanced very seriously. And Phil Jones was one of those guys. I liked him a great deal. I thought the world of him. I adored the guy, quite frankly. And I was very sad today to hear of his passing. Rest in peace, Phil Jones, passing just over this weekend. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It's 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunny and 96 degrees. The forecast and a traffic report are coming up. Former President Trump visiting a campaign location in Roseville, Michigan today after a speech at the National Guard Association convention in Detroit. Trump spoke to cheering campaign workers, saying polls showing the campaign is flipping some states to lean Republican and projecting confidence that he's going to win Michigan in November.
There's more enthusiasm now than there was then. Wouldn't you say so? Wouldn't you say? Because,
Trump will visit swing states Wisconsin and Pennsylvania later this week. Special counsel Jack Smith, he's aiming to resurrect the classified documents case against the former president. He's appealing last month's decision by a judge to dismiss the Trump document case. ABC's Stephen Portnoy has the latest.
The special counsel says Judge Eileen Cannon was wrong to toss the classified documents case. Cannon ruled that Jack Smith's appointment violated the Constitution because he wasn't confirmed by the Senate the way U.S. attorneys are. Smith's appeal to the 11th Circuit Court points to a long tradition of outside attorneys taking on cases within the Justice Department, describing Cannon's ruling as strained, nonsensical, and without the support of text, context, history, or common sense.
North of the border now, Canada taking a bold step in trade relations with China, aligning closely with recent U.S. actions. Dave Packer has more.
Canada announcing a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles, mirroring U.S. tariffs aimed at countering what Western governments call unfair Chinese subsidies. The move follows U.S. encouragement during talks with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. While Tesla's Shanghai-made EVs are currently the only Chinese models sold in Canada, new players like BYD may soon be affected. China has yet to respond, but potential retaliatory measures could impact Canadian industries like barley and pork. Dave Packer, ABC News.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, we've got them coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Busy Bee. Got some August promotional things, back to school specials, if you will. If you purchase a new high efficiency HVAC unit, you can then register to win their Healthy Hive giveaway. Now, this is the 26th day of August, so you just got enough time to get in under the wire. A Healthy Hive giveaway is a $2,000 sponsorship that will be given to local school of the winner's choice. Must be within the service area of Busy Bee, not out of state, not out of region. Another thing that's sort of school related, if you buy a Beehive membership, they start at $99, and for that you get 3 inspections annually of your major systems, heating, cooling, and your plumbing. Well, if you do that, you could then give a free Beehive membership to somebody at a local school. It could be a teacher, a faculty member, a member of the staff. School must be within the service area, not out of state, not out of region. A couple of other specials they got going. How about this? $500 off a home drain repipe, $700 off a home water line repipe. How about HVAC services? $100 off home indoor air quality products. A lot of things that you can get there. It's Busy Bee HVAC, 615-775-7833. Learn more at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
$37 past the hour of 5 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair. How you doing? Everything good? Okay, get home safely now. Watch the traffic and listen to us. All right, here we go. Tulsi Gabbard today made an appearance with Donald Trump and gave him full-throated endorsement.
I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief. Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace.
Well, listen, I always like Tulsi Gabbard. Every time I see her on camera, I find that, you can't take your eyes off the screen because she's so compelling, so intense. Just the eye contact with the camera, her voice, which I love her voice. She just comes across as incredibly credible in a way that so few do. And I like her. I like the fact that she endorsed Donald Trump. She's got some things going on, though, that I didn't know anything about until yesterday. I read this story, and I thought it was interesting. Apparently, Tulsi Gabbard has been under the surveillance of the TSA. Have you heard this? Chris, have you heard this story at all?
I have not.
It slipped past me. I just happened to pick up on it. 2 weeks ago, former presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard found out she's been placed on the TSA's Quiet Skies watch list and put under special mission coverage surveillance by federal air marshals. This is what they do to people who they think are truly a risk to national security. A lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves who enlisted and served in Iraq after 9/11, Gabbard was almost speechless at reports of her placement on a terrorist list. She felt the deepest sense of betrayal, she said, adding it cuts to the core. Since then, multiple air marshals came forward as whistleblowers, and their firm, Empower Oversight, sent letters to 8 House and Senate committees of jurisdiction. Each was asked to get to the bottom of why Gabbard was surveilled and looked into Quiet Skies more generally. Today, we've learned that at least 3 of those committees decided to investigate, giving deadlines to TSA Administrator David Pekoske to answer a range of queries, and not just about Gabbard. Gabbard herself also just heard from the Department of Homeland Security in response to what they call a Travelers Redress Inquiry Program report that she completed back in July of 31st. Now, the letter that she got back from the TSA and the Homeland Security Department does not confirm or deny that Gabbard was ever on a list, but it does say, quote, corrections have been made that may assist in avoiding misidentification errors in the future. As the department wrote, DHS TRIP can neither confirm nor deny any information about which you may be within federal watch list, where you may be within federal watch list. However, we have made any corrections to the records that our inquiries determined were necessary, including, as appropriate, notations that may assist in avoiding incidents of misidentification. Did you ever read a paragraph that you know came from the lawyers? That was one of them. They're very careful what they're saying there, aren't they? Why? I mean, they're saying that she was confused with somebody else named Tulsi Gabbard. I bet, how many Tulsi Gabbards could there possibly be in the country? And by the way, apparently, and sending out the memo to TSA agents of who they should be on the lookout for, they used her congressional portrait. Unbelievable. So we got Ohio Congressman, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan's Weaponization Committee has sent a letter to Pekoske saying we need answers. So has Senate Homeland Security Committee Chairman, our ranking member, Kentucky's Rand Paul, sent a letter out to Pekoske today with a whole detailed list of requests. Chuck Grassley's asking questions as well as member of the Budget Committee, ranking member, sent a letter of his own demanding that Pekoske name all TSA employees who were provided information obtained through surveillance of Lieutenant Colonel Gabbard, while explaining that information shared out TSA, and if so, to whom? Why were they watching Tulsi Gabbard? Did they just want to know where she was going? Who she was meeting with? I mean, what an intrusion on her privacy. Unbelievable. Something doesn't smell right about this. I have a feeling there's a lot more to this story than we know. It'll be interesting to find out what it is. Other news from the swamp. I just want to point this out. I've talked about this a little bit, but I think this story gets it right, and it's in Politico, which I generally don't like. But this story does talk about something that I think they think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Supreme Court recent decisions could undo big Biden accomplishments. The end of a decades-old legal precedent is a boon for lawyers, giving small government conservatives and judges who want to out-expert agency analysts. Many Democrats say industry wields too much power in Washington, but they also see the judiciary as a fast-growing threat to their agenda. Remember, this is written for the Politico. They're looking at this as a bad thing. Basically, what it has done is that there was a ruling by the High Court that said that you have to do away with what was called the Chevron rule. Chevron rule has been taken away. Chevron rule said that if a piece of legislation is passed by Congress, signed into law by the president, and it lands for the different branches of the executive branch to then adjudicate, to actually implement, that if they feel that Congress has been vague in writing the law, then they can write rules that lay out how they will interpret the law. The problem with that is when the Democrats are in charge, they write one rule. And when the Republicans are in charge, they write a different rule. And in both cases, it's possible that the will of Congress in passing the law has been circumvented. And so they said, no, the Chevron rule will be no more. And what that means in the long term is that a lot of lawsuits can now be filed challenging the executive branch of whatever presidency is in charge, whoever the president is, and can look at them and say, we think that you're misinterpreting this rule, and can bring lawsuits. And now judges who hear the cases don't have to give undue deference to the Chevron rule. Pretty good deal, really, honestly, if you ask me. Because I think the agencies have too much power, and they often do circumvent the will of Congress. This story is interesting. It has to do with the state of California. Now, I saw this story a couple of days ago, and I just couldn't believe it was true. I wanted to do a little more research. It apparently is true. California government officials and big tech are nearing an agreement to jointly provide at least $242.5 million in funding for journalism, including local and ethnic outlets. The agreement, first reported on KCRA, would put an end to bills that would require tech companies to pay newsrooms a portion of their search and display revenue. Under the California Journalism Preservation Act, which this agreement would stop from advancing, social media companies and search engines would be required to pay a share of their advertising revenues to news organizations based on how much organizations' content shows up in social media feeds or search results. As a protest, Google stopped showing local California news organizations and its news search to some California users. But this new deal would see California government pitch in $70 million, and Google would put up $172 million toward newsrooms. But then who administrates the money? Who does it go to? Does it go to fair and balanced reporting, or does it go to slanted newsrooms? That's the thing that I'm very concerned about. And I thought, well, maybe this is a good thing. I don't think that it is, because a lot of newsrooms are struggling to stay afloat. But then I found out that they were working on this whole plan in conjunction with the Berkeley School of Journalism at the University of Berkeley, California. I think that's all I needed to hear, because I'm telling you, what kind of journalism comes out of the Berkeley School of Journalism in Berkeley, California, at Berkeley University. I'm not liking this. I mean, what it basically do, well, it will provide pretty good funding for a lot of liberal newsrooms in California. Now, who's to say that it stops there? One of the things you have to look at is when you look at California, it's a bellwether state. When things happen in California, they end up happening in other states around the country. I don't like this idea. Government should not be involved in funding in any way journalism. Journalism has to be independent. If you're taking money from the government, how can you be truly independent in reporting about what government is doing? And Google's politics in all of this. So I got a real concern about this. Journalism is just, I'm telling you, it's on its last legs. Finding people who will give it to you straight anymore is getting to be a real challenge. Look, I'm going to tell you, first off, I used to consider myself a journalist, and for many years, I did work in the craft of journalism. It's not a profession; it's a craft. And I was a broadcast journalist who worked in radio and then in TV. And I went back to school and got a master's degree. So I now have a master's degree in print journalism. So, I mean, I made journalism a very important part of everything that I have done. And I always tried, when I was a straight up the middle reporter, to give it to you straight. This side, the old saying that Brit Hume came up with, which is true, is, fair and balanced. We report, you decide. And so I like that idea. And I embraced that idea all the years that I was a journalist. I tried to play it up the middle. Did I always succeed? No, but I tried. That was my goal each day, was to play it up the middle. Nowadays, they don't even try to hide their bias. And when I say, that I'm no longer a journalist, it's because I walked through the door into the world of opinion. And when I walked through that door, I knew it was a revolving door and I couldn't go back out. It was a one-way door. When you leave the world of journalism and go to opinion, then you have made a decision that you will never return in any effective or credible way to the world of journalism. And so, but now, the line between what is an opinion giver and what is somebody who does journalism is blurred. I mean, look at ABC News, George Stephanopoulos, a guy who worked for the Bill Clinton campaign, and is still, I think, very, very much a part of the sort of move toward liberal reporting on major news agencies. So, I don't think that government ought to be involved in funding news organizations, including, if I may add, not that I'm bitter, in PR. Just saying. It's 50 minutes past the hour. Are your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes? Hard to believe, but many hard-working Americans just like you could be overpaying on taxes in retirement. You can be taxed on your IRA, your 401k, and any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. Beacon Capital Management is here to give you peace of mind. With the threat of massive tax increases just around the corner, your nest egg could really be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax-saving strategies now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis today. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Just call this number, 615-488-9303, or visit askbeaconnow.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, did you know that gold is up 78% over the last 5 years and silver is up 99% over that same time period? Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its value since 2020. The government-induced inflation, well, it's stealing your wealth, and it doesn't seem that Washington, D.C. has any plans to stop. Gold and other precious metals are a great shield against inflation's theft. And as you know, in an election year, you'll hear from the politicians. They promise to rein in their spending, but they really can't help themselves. You know how it's going to turn out. That's why no matter who is in office, gold protects you from the D.C. spending sprees. Where do you get such protection? Well, reach out to my friends Kyle and Hannah at Nashville Gold and Coin. They will take great care of you and keep you informed on all precious metal opportunities. So act now and get your shield against out-of-control government spending. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com and set up your appointment today.
Good evening. It is 6 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine, and man, we've been hanging in there at 96 degrees for a good part of the afternoon. We've got a weather forecast and a traffic report coming up. Donald Trump speaking in Detroit today at a convention of the National Guard Association. Trump appeared alongside former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who has endorsed Mr. Trump. Here's ABC's Terry Moran.
He got a pretty warm welcome from the 146th Convention of the National Guard. It's not a partisan event, and yet you could hear plenty of support. He did say at one point that he kind of missed his rally, the kind of applause he got at rallies, but this was a convention that he spoke to that I think wanted to hear what he had to say on the subject of national security.
After Michigan, Mr. Trump heads to Wisconsin and then Pennsylvania later this week. National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby today saying this past weekend strikes by Israel and Hezbollah had no impact on ceasefire negotiations that are going on in Cairo, and that talks are now moving forward at a working group level over the next few days as they try to hammer out specifics. Here is John Kirby.
All parties will be represented, including Hamas, in those working group discussions. And as for how long they'll take, I think that remains to be seen. We expect that these working group discussions will at least take place over the next few days.
And news from a country that you don't hear about much, and the news is tragic. An ice cave in Iceland partially collapsing, killing at least one person, and two others are still missing. ABC's Inez de la Catara, she has more.
Officials in Iceland searching for two tourists who went missing after an ice cave partially collapsed while the group had been visiting a glacier in the southeastern part of the country. 4 people were struck by falling ice, one dying at the scene, another flown to hospital by helicopter. The search was suspended overnight when conditions made it too dangerous to continue, but resumed today with dozens of rescuers.
So it is rather interesting. You've had baseball around for about 150 years, and today a first in Major League Baseball. A big league player guaranteed to be on the winning team tonight and on the losing team. Here's ABC's Dave Packer to explain how that works.
Danny Jansen will make baseball history tonight, becoming the first MLB player to ever play for both teams in the same game. Back in June, Jansen was with the Toronto Blue Jays when a game against the Boston Red Sox was suspended due to rain. Jansen was traded to Boston a month later, so tonight he'll finish that game in a Red Sox jersey. He was batting when the game was suspended, and he'll be behind the plate for Boston when play resumes. A Toronto pinch hitter will inherit Jansen's one strike on the count.
And finally, in some quick sports news that affects Tennessee Titan fans, multiple sources reporting the Titans have traded quarterback Malik Willis to the Green Bay Packers for a 2025 7th-round draft pick. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Good evening, everyone. 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair all the way till 7 o'clock, and then we'll hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. Hope that you're gotten home safely, or you're about to get home safely. Some people still on the roads trying to make their way home. I don't know what's going on in Wilson County, but I just stepped out for a moment, and boy, I heard about sounded like about 10 or 12 ambulances or sirens going by.
Ooh, wow.
Something going on. Be careful out there on the highways, you folks. I don't know what it is. Let's see what's going on here. I got a lot of local news I'd like to get across today, if I could. Fast Freddie O'Connell, our mayor in Nashville, is proposing a series of bills to make existing sort of public safety proposals, if you will. And one of them would make an adjustment to the city's existing rules regarding face masks or other face coverings in public spaces. I think this is aimed at the neo-Nazis who apparently show up in Nashville from time to time. This is from the Tennessee Star. Let me see. Press release from the mayor's office confirms a total of 4 pieces of legislation are part of O'Connell's safety proposal, including an adjustment to our mask-wearing ordinance. The mayor's office did not publish additional details. Channel 5 reports that O'Connell's mask restriction is aimed at preventing groups like the Patriot Front from concealing their identities while marching in Nashville. Previous demonstrations have included marchers with faces obscured by masks. They are also carrying, as you know, Nazi icons. Nashville's existing mask ordinance, according to the outlet, prohibits wearing masks in public places without a special reason. But the adjustment sought by O'Connell would reportedly add religious reasons and medical purposes to the list of exemptions. So, I mean, all you got to do to get around this is just put on an old medical mask like we had when we had COVID. You still conceal your identity, don't you? I don't know what that does. The mayor additionally submitted proposals he said would create buffer zones to maintain public safety around public buildings and parking lots, and ban distracting signs on highways and prevent distribution of handbills on private property before sunrise or after sunset. Wow. Okay. Let me go through those one at a time. A buffer zone around public buildings. Now, this one seems reasonable. You don't have to have people, give them, access right up to the front door. Perhaps if we'd have had this, in the riots in Nashville, we would not have had the county courthouse put on fire. And you would have be able to say, well, you got to stand back so far. You can protest, but you can't protest right up here against the front door. I don't have a problem with that one. You have to allow the egress and ingress into a building. People got to come and go. So I don't have a real problem with that. He says that these proposals are aimed at addressing possible public safety issues around government buildings in Nashville. While political violence prevents government functions or creates public safety issues, we must have the tools in our toolkit to respond effectively. Well, I just want to point out, I do not on any level endorse these guys who march around town with the Nazis swastikas on their uniforms and their faces covered. I just don't. Sorry. I don't want anybody to interpret it as this way. But if you really want to, if you want to talk about the most violent actions we had in Nashville in recent memory, it had nothing to do with the neo-Nazis. It had to do with the people who tried to burn down the courthouse. And by the way, they tried to burn down downtown Nashville. They tried to firebomb a building on Lower Broad, and then it's not known, but by and large, they did damage to a statue up by the Ryman, and the Ryman was left completely unprotected. Talk about a national treasure, and it was left unprotected. But, those are the folks that caused the last real violence that we've seen in Nashville. So, just want to make that point. Excuse me, clumsy. Let's see what else. So there's 2 or 3 stories about that. Tennessee Valley Authority is receiving pushback on its plan to implement an October 1st rate increase. The Tennessee Valley Authority will begin a 2.25%, that's 5.25% base rate increase October 11th, something that the energy supplier will equate to a $4.35 per month increase in the average $138 residential bill. The increase comes after a 4.5% increase a year ago. TVA says this is to increase funding for ongoing construction and energy development as the utility spends nearly $16 billion through fiscal 2027 to build new power generation and infrastructure to meet increased energy needs in the region. I don't know where to come down on this. I understand everybody's really having a hard time with their electric bills and their food bills and inflation in general. We do have to invest, I have to say, in more electrical generation if we're going to meet the needs of the future. I think the answer is nuclear. I think that's the way to go. We have nuclear power here in the state of Tennessee. I think that's the long-term best way to go forward with this. I don't know enough about the number crunching here to see whether this is justified, but I do think that we need to make sure that we're making an investment in our electrical infrastructure for the future, because the future, everything that I'm reading, and it's not just, EVs. It's also that for example, all this artificial intelligence that we're coming to rely upon. Incredible. It takes incredible. You would be shocked, stunned, and amazed to know how much electricity it takes to do artificial intelligence. It's astonishing. I read some stories about it. I don't have the figures right at the tip of my tongue, but I can tell you that it was shocking to know how much electricity AI consumes. And there's going to be a lot more of AI, as well as growth in the state of Tennessee and more demand for electricity as we either voluntarily or involuntarily move toward utilities that rely upon electricity and not natural gas and fossil fuels. So I think it's a good investment. I hate the fact that we all have to pay a little more in our electric bills, but to me, at least, it seems like you don't want to get down the path and find out you don't have too much electricity. You don't have enough electricity. I mean, that's what you want to. You don't want to ever face that, like they faced in Texas, where one day, because they did not invest in their infrastructure, they woke up and they were having brownouts and blackouts all over the state of Texas. So it can happen. Tennessee receives $813 million from the federal government to expand broadband access. So that's interesting. I like the idea of broadband across the entire state. And my quibble, of course, is that when you say it comes from the federal government, no, it comes from you and me. It's just money that we have given to the federal government is coming back to us. Thank you, federal government, being so great to give us some of our money back. Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development announced Monday its proposal to spend $813 million of the federal funds to expand broadband access in rural areas. We've already done a lot of work in this regard. I'm happy to say I'm the beneficiary of one of these plans. I have incredibly fast internet here in Watertown because, a rural investment was made. Look, everybody is going to need the internet. You can't live without the internet these days. It's become as important a utility. In fact, when I bought the house in Watertown, my first question is, I can only buy this house if I can get broadband coverage, because I got to have broadband coverage for what I do. And I was happy to find out that not only could I get broadband coverage, I could get extremely good broadband coverage in Watertown because investments had been made. 2024 was a record-breaking year for the Wilson County, Tennessee State Fair. Chris, if I had to ask you just off the question, you hate it when I do this. How many people do you think went to the Tennessee County, Tennessee State Fair?
200,000.
No.
Is it close?
No, not even close.
400,000.
Nope.
More than that?
Yep.
Good grief.
Way more.
Really? 1 million people?
Yeah, that's a little too much,
Little
but,
high, all
but,
right.
but you're a little high, but not too much off the mark. According to officials, 861,425 people visited the fair this year, which is the most recorded in the history of the state fair.
Good job, people.
Yeah, good job.
A lot of visitors.
You know, this whole idea of moving the state fair to Wilson County has really worked out well. There were 122,000 more visitors than last year. And this year's attendance broke the previous record of 2022. That was a good year, by 85,000 people. So they not only broke it, they crushed it.
Wow.
The Tennessee State Fair and the Wilson County Fair first combined in 2021, during COVID. Prior to that, the last attendance record was set in 2013 when back in 2013, only a little over 500,000 people went to the fair over the course of a week. That's pretty cool.
Can I give the fair people a tip? If they want to get it over 1 million, I know how they could do that easily. Move it to October. If the fair was in October, man.
Yeah, when it's a little cooler.
Nice weather, yeah.
Of course, we had some nice weather during that
That's
fair.
true, we did.
I mean, we had a nice
break,
we had a little break, but you're right. I mean, October would be great.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
There's then you could do the whole fall theme.
That's right.
Pumpkins and pumpkin spice lattes.
Well, let's not take it too far.
Yeah, I know. Not in Tennessee. But, no, that's good. And I have to admit, I had every intention of getting out this year, and I did not go. And I'm really ashamed to say that.
Right down the road, man.
I know, it's just down the road. I saw it. A couple times I had to go to Lebanon, and I passed right by where all the law enforcement were, telling people where to park and everything. And I thought, man, we got to get by there. But I just never, I had other things going, and I never did. There were 150 livestock shows, 15 stages of entertainment, 150 activities, including the husband calling contest, which was won by a Canadian, go figure, 60 plus midway rides, 200 concessions, vendors, and commercial booths. In social media posts announcing the attendant record, fair officials thanked more than 2,500 volunteers. See, it takes a lot of volunteers to pull that off. The fair sponsors, law enforcement, and the countless other individuals and organizations that made it such a big success. Hey, congratulations on a big state fair. I promise you next year, without fail, I'll come by because I want to see the goats.
All right.
It's not a fair unless you go by to see the goats and the pigs.
If you say so.
Yeah. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. People here know Genesis Diamonds as the value leader. They've proven it. And these days, value is so important. The thing to remember, Genesis is a true direct importer with connections that go back about 50 plus years. No middleman markups, no consignment fees, no third-party people to pay. And unlike other stores, Genesis works on a low profit margin. Their business is built on volume at a great price, so they don't have to make a killing on every sale. It's the opposite of what you have come to expect in other jewelry stores. But one thing people really here love about Genesis is this is where you can get her a better ring, a designer ring, a handcrafted ring that reflects how you see her. While other stores still sell knockoff rings or crappy overseas rings, at Genesis, you can get her a stunning designer ring made here in America by top designers. These are rings that are made to last. Bottom line, she will proudly show off a Genesis ring because it won't be a mass-produced ring. It will be something unique, something amazing. That's why Genesis specializes in combining the best diamond value with the best quality ring to give you the total package with the free lifetime warranty as well. Genesis Diamonds, where luxury and value come together every day. Check them out, Green Hills and Cool Springs. And don't forget about the incredible collection of amazing luxury pre-owned Rolex watches.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A shooting in a South Nashville alley leaves a person dead this afternoon. We'll have that breaking story as well as today's closing money news. That's all coming up here in just a bit. 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 24 past the hour of 6. Hey, listen, earlier today we had as our special guest Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton. He and Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally have sent a shot across the bow of, well, let's just call it the blue jurisdictions in the state of Tennessee. Especially aimed at Shelby County over Memphis, where they are trying to circumvent state law. Here is Cameron Sexton from earlier today.
So, I mean, what we have in the state law is a preemption clause that no local government can preempt anything basically with the Second Amendment. Ammunition, guns, prohibiting, limiting, anything. It's very clear they have no authority to do that. But we also have local governments, progressive governments trying to do other things, impose DEI will on businesses or on contracts. And so we've had enough. And so I've been working with the lieutenant governor, and we worked through the AG's office. And so what we're going to propose is a bill that basically says if you attempt to preempt state law through ordinance or charter amendments or through whatever avenue you want to go, if you do that, then we are going to withhold state shared sales tax dollars from you. In the city of Memphis, if they go through with this and do this sort of stuff, it would cost them $77 million.
$77 million, which is a lot of money to walk away from to make a point, I guess. So are you certain that you have the authority to do that? And why do you think that they are going forward with this if they run the risk of losing such a large amount of state funding?
We do have the authority. Arizona passed something recently that is doing the same thing, and also a violation of the state constitution. If the locals violate the state constitution, then they can be withheld accountable as well. And the thing is, look, if the federal government does it to us all the time. Look, the basic example that I use is we passed in the state of Tennessee that boys cannot play girls sports. The Biden administration through Title IX is trying to put that boys can play girls sports in Title IX. Title IX forces us as a state to abide by it if we want the federal education dollars, because federal law trumps state law. And so we would have to make a decision. Are we willing to forego federal education dollars, or are we not? Well, right now, the locals have no mechanism to be held accountable. They can do whatever they want. We can't withhold anything from them. And so all we're doing is saying, look, if this is the road that you want to go down as a progressive city, even though there's no bearing that you can do this, we are going to withhold sales tax dollars from you, and you got to make a choice.
Well, I'm reading your statement along with the Lieutenant Governor McNally's statement, and you say, with the recent actions of the progressive soft-on-crime DA in Shelby County and the Memphis City Council, its continued efforts to override state law with local measures, we feel it's become necessary to take action. You single out the DA in Shelby County. What has he done that has caught your attention?
Well, I mean, he's not prosecuting crimes. He's letting people off. The bail system's running amok down there. He's not charging violent criminals with violent crimes. He's not trying any cases. And so what you have is you have the city of Memphis that's wanting to say, well, we need to ban guns, which is your Second Amendment right to have it. We're going to ban guns because guns is the problem. It's not the criminal and that they say is the problem. It's the law-abiding citizens. You know, Brian, if you're a law-abiding citizen, then you shouldn't be able to have certain guns in Memphis because they deem you a risk, but the criminals are the risk. Yeah. And so what you have is a combination of a soft-on-crime DA who will not go after violent criminals, who will not do the job that they should be doing. And then you got the city of Memphis with crime rising through the roof because of the soft-on-crime DA. They're going to say, oh, now it's the problem is really the guns. It's the red flag laws and all this sort of stuff. And state law is very clear that they have no authority. And if that's what they want to do, then there should be a consequence.
Well, so you and the Lieutenant Governor, you say you have heard back, or are you've noticed that some things have been said in Shelby County about all this, or have they gotten back to you directly?
Well, what you've heard is originally this is an ordinance and we're going to do it through the charter, and then they started backing up a little bit. We'll see what happens. But I can tell you the Lieutenant Governor and I and the General Assembly are not going to back up on this. We're going to pass this next year. and we're going to start holding these local governments accountable to the state laws of Tennessee. That's what we're elected to do. That's the state constitution gives us the authority to have oversight over local governments, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, and then to talk about the election, how is this shaping up in your estimation?
It's looking well in Tennessee. It's looking great. I mean, we're Trump's going to win the state of Tennessee. We're going to maintain our supermajority. You got outside groups, very liberal groups coming in trying to increase voter turnout. And so we're going to hold strong. We're going to maintain our supermajority and continue pushing our state forward and being a beacon of hope for freedom and liberty all across this country. People are looking at Tennessee and saying, that's what America represents. That's what we want, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
And as far as it's coming up in the next session, do you have any other ideas about things that might be of interest that you're going to be taking on?
Yeah, well, one of the things we're looking at, too, it's not so much of an issue in Davidson County because they're a metro government. But what you do have is in some municipalities, they allow property owners and business owners to vote in city elections because they're being taxed. They're being told what to do and not to do for their business. And so we're looking at allowing business owners and property owners, if you have a business inside the city limits but you don't live there, why should they not vote for local city elections? They should have every right as well. They have a business in there. They're being affected by the laws, but they have no say at the ballot box.
That's Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton earlier today on The Drive. Time for the news at 6:30.
Good evening. It's 6:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Still sunny? Gee, we've dropped a couple of degrees. We're still at 94 hot, steamy degrees. The forecast and a traffic report coming up. The Metro Nashville Police Department said that officers were sent to the area of Lewis Street just before 3:30 today after they received a call about a body that was found in a nearby alley. News 2 reports a witness allegedly told police they heard gunshots in the area of Lewis and Hart Streets before finding a body in the alley. First responders then arrived and reportedly attempted CPR on the victim, but the unidentified individual was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. This is an ongoing investigation. No identities have been released. We now turn to today's closing money news, and for that, here's Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks start the week with a mixed finish, but also a benchmark. The Dow closed up 65 points at an all-time high of 41,241. The Nasdaq closed down 152 points, and the S&P finished down 18. The Canadian government is imposing a 100% tariff on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles. That matches U.S. tariffs, and it follows similar plans already announced by the European Commission. Kroger and Albertsons are defending their plans to merge in a federal court hearing. They say joining would help them compete with big rivals like Walmart and Costco. But the FTC says the merger would eliminate competition and it would raise prices. If you're traveling over the long Labor Day weekend, the AAA says bookings for domestic travel are up 9% higher than this time last year. So they suggest that you have a backup plan for cancellations and delays. Pack your patience.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, you know, if you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy some of the same flavors there that you get at the restaurant, right on your very own grill. Just take a walk down your local grocery store aisle, places like Walmart and Kroger, and look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. Now, their proprietary blend of marinade will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of other brands. You don't have to worry about over-marinating. And when it comes to his honey mustard salad dressing, well, you can use it as a salad dressing or a dipping sauce for things like chicken fingers, fresh cut veggies, chips, a recipe used in his restaurants for over 35 years. If your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask them to do so. For more information, visit johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legends Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner. It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive. I mentioned earlier in the show that I got a little bit of sad news over the weekend when I learned about the passing of a guy by the name of Phil Jones, who was a Capitol Hill correspondent for CBS News for many, many, many years. I mean, I think he covered the Ford White House. He covered Watergate. He was a Capitol Hill correspondent during some of the biggest stories of our era. And he passed, he spent 30 years working for CBS News. Back in the day, well, he was considered one of Cronkite's kids. He was, you know, back in the day when CBS News had a modicum of respect. And I got to meet him when I went to Capitol Hill and became a reporter for the local Fox affiliate, which, believe it or not, had a tremendous following in Washington, D.C. in those days, because we did an early newscast, came on at 10 o'clock in the evening. And for people who worked in downtown Washington, they missed the evening news, you know, that ran at 6 and 7. And so they would be getting home after that. And the first newscast they could watch was our newscast. So I had a really great job there, but I didn't know anything. When I got sent I had to figure it out because I'd never, covered anything like Capitol Hill before. But Phil Jones was a guy who really, he was the dean of broadcast journalists there, and he was always, somebody you could talk to and ask questions of, and he would give you good advice and tell you and give you some, some story about how he had done things in a similar way or how he had tackled similar problems. But he was legendary. I mean, the man once rode a donkey across Burma to try to do an interview with a drug lord.
A donkey?
A donkey. That's the only way he could get there. He rode a donkey. I mean, he when he got on a story, you couldn't pull him off of it.
That's a news hound right there, boy.
Now,
Wow.
I could always tell when Phil was up to something when he had a good story on Capitol Hill because he would close the door to his booth. Yeah, we all had little cubbyhole booths up on there, and his was just down the hall from mine. Most days it's open. You could go by and talk to Phil. Phil would, be chomping on his cigar. And, never lit it, but he chomped on it all the time. And you could ask some question, and he always was very helpful. But if his door was closed, he had a scoop.
Did you lean up against the door and put your ear up to it?
No, because he didn't want NBC or ABC to get it. Now, at the time, the person who was doing Capitol Hill for ABC was Britt Hume, which is how I met Britt. Wow. And how I eventually came to Capitol Hill and come to the Fox News Channel. Anyway. So I was sitting around talking with Phil one day, and I said, Phil, I've got this problem. I said, I've got this producer. And, when you're in a broadcast news operation in most places, you write copy and you submit it to be approved by an editor. Now, a good editor is a wonderful thing. You want a good editor, someone who looks at it and says, we can make this a little stronger. Let's take out this word. Let's use a different word. Let's move this here. Let's move that there. And sort of could give you some ideas. Because, when you're cranking on a deadline, you're too close to the story. Sometimes you leave out facts that, but the audience won't. And an editor will spot stuff like this. Editors can be great things unless you get a bad one. And I had a bad one. I mean, a really bad one. Would hand my scripts, and there'd be nothing wrong with that script. I mean, again, I'm not opposed to having somebody tell me if there's a better way to tell the story, but these ways, the things that she would do to my script were just brutal, and never made them better. Made them clunky. The language would be stilted, and it was maddening because this person clearly had the authority to do this to my script, but they weren't making them better. They were making them worse, and it was driving me crazy. And I was telling Phil this story. I said, well, I'll tell you what I'd do if I was you. I said, this is what I used to do. Write your script the way you want it. Put an error in it. It can be a grammatical error. It can be an obvious error of fact. I said, now, never let it get on the air, of course. He said, but leave it in there when you submit the script to the person. They will find the obvious thing that you've left there for them. They'll correct it, and they'll hand you back the script. It's just that if you hand a producer a perfect script, they don't feel like they've done their job until they change something. Wow. And so I did that, and it worked. It worked. It was so good. That's passive aggressive as hell. I admit that, but I'm not ashamed of it because I solved the problem that I had. And I would turn it in. I'm not going to use this person's name. I'll make up a name, and I would turn it in to Susie, and Susie would take a look at it and, Brian, did you see this? And, make the change. And I would go, Susie, great edit. Fabulous job. How did I miss that? And I would go off, and largely my scripts were left untouched. And I sort of adapted that at Fox News, where the problem was not so much that they would chew up your script and your copy and all that, but that they would always not want you to give you much time. Like, sometimes when you're telling a complex story, it's really hard to do it justice in a minute 20. And that's, that was sort of the standard $1.20. You get $1.20 for that. Minute 20 to tell the story. Well, that's not a lot of time when you have to take 2 sound bites and a stand up in there and you weave around. I mean, it's literally, I could write a $1.20 story in about 4 minutes when I had everything going right. But I would know that I was leaving stuff out. So I would leave out some obvious fact that needed to be in the story, right? And then I would turn in the script, and it would go to the first editor, and they would generally approve it. But then Britt Hume would look at it, and you get this overhead page. Brian Wilson, please call me in my office. And I would call him, and he said, "What you missed the most important part here. You missed this part." I said, "I know, Britt, but they just gave me 1:20. What would you take out?" "I'll get you some more time." And so I would end up with 1:30 or 1:45, which was what was a decent time. So, I mean, you had to learn how to manage those people. The other memory I have about that time, talking about the old gentleman correspondents, Britt Hume's really the last one now. But there were a couple of guys that I encountered when I started covering the Clinton White House. One was named Bill Plant. You ever hear of Chris Plant? The radio talk show host? It was his stepdad, Bill Plant. And then the other was a guy, Bill worked for CBS, and then there's a guy named John Palmer who worked for NBC. So we're sitting on a trip. It's a fundraising trip out in California. It's not too far from San Francisco, Silicon Valley. We're hanging out in a hotel, and really on fundraising trips, you had to be around in case there was an emergency. You couldn't be very far from the workspace, but you could go to dinner, as long as you kept your phones on and all that kind of stuff. And so Bill Plant came to me it's listed by my first trips that I went out on this White House beat. He said, "Hey, we're going to do dinner tonight. Would you like to join us?" He was inviting me, the new guy.
Yeah.
Out on dinner with Bill Plant, and then John Palmer of NBC News was going to join us. I said, "Hell yes, absolutely." Mm-hmm. So we end up going to, and I'm thinking, well, I got $50 on me. I hope that's enough, and I had they had an allowance for travel allowance, but it wasn't going to cover a deal at a Wolfgang Puck restaurant. I can promise you that. So we end up there, at dinner, and it starts about 7. We're still there at midnight. Ooh. I mean, we've had a meal. There have been some great bottles of wine that are brought out. I'm not talking about, a $10 bottle of wine. I'm talking about $250, $300 bottle of wine. I mean, and the stories were going, and I was just sitting back, just absorbing all of these great war stories from these old gentleman correspondents. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know how in the hell I'm going to pay for this. I mean, if I put it on my American Express card, which is the company card, they'll never reimburse me for this. I mean, they'll say, "Are you crazy? You spent what, $300-400? I mean, easily. My part of that dinner was easily $500. And I didn't have it. And I didn't have it on me, and I sure as hell wasn't going to put it on the company credit card. And I was just figuring, well, I guess I'll put it on the company credit card just to get it covered, and then I'll have to figure out a way to pay them back, because I wasn't going to not pony up my share after they were so gracious to invite me. But I couldn't believe how long this thing ran, and I couldn't believe the numbers of bottles of wine and the great desserts. And I mean, it was a fabulous meal and a fabulous evening, but I was sweating all the time. How much is this going to cost me? And the bill came, and I reached for my wallet. And John Palmer and Bill Plant both at the same time said, "Oh, no, you're the new guy. This is on us."
Wow.
I know. But they could submit something like that.
They could get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, they were the old gentleman correspondents. It was in their contracts and everything. But I was just like, there's no way I was going to be able to cover that. Bill Plant carried with him a little book of every place he had traveled, what he ate and what he drank, and where the great restaurants were.
Interesting.
And I mean, you go to any place, if you're on the plane, "Hey, Bill, where's a good place to eat tonight?" "Well, let me see." He'd pull out his little book, and he'd go through it, and he'd find it. It's all alphabetized, and he kept a perfect record of it. And John Palmer was this sweet, sweet guy. But again, those old gentleman correspondents, they lived unbelievable lives, had unbelievable experiences. And really, though, they really cared in those days. There were still a few of them around who cared deeply about, telling a story accurately, making sure that it was balanced, that you told all sides of the story. I remember another guy named John Dancy, who was one of those last gentleman correspondents. And with the passage today of Phil Jones, or learning about the passing of him over the weekend at the age of 87, There really are none of those great old correspondents left. The last one standing right now, in my estimation, is Brit Hume, who I adore as well, and somebody that I worked for many years and who made me a much better journalist. So, it's sad to see some of the greats go. Cronkite went years ago, and after that, it seems to me that there's never been anyone who sort of lived up to that bench of correspondents that they had, those old gentlemen correspondents who traveled the world, had seen it all, but were still generous to a new guy like me. I'll always remember those guys fondly. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, by the way, want to tout you on a little thing we're going to be doing on September 10th, which is the day of the big debate. Starts 3 p.m. We're going to be going out to Scoreboard Cedar Creek in Mount Juliet. I'll start my show there. And at some point along the afternoon, Dan, Chris, and Matt will join me. And then we'll hang around and watch the debate together, see how that all goes. So, again, that is Scoreboard Creek in Mount Juliet. The next presidential debate now scheduled for Tuesday, September 10th. You don't want to miss that. It's the debate that everybody's going to be watching and talking about, and we'll be doing it live with you. The last one we had was a great deal of fun, and I think you'll enjoy it. Details can be found at 997WTN.com, and we hope to see you there, everyone.